After the college entrance exam, my childhood friend made plans to confess to the class beauty. Unexpectedly, a firework at home suddenly exploded, trapping them in a sea of flames. Seeing that they were about to be burned alive, I gritted my teeth and went to rescue them. After shielding my childhood friend from a falling window frame, my arm and cheek suffered extensive burns. To repay a debt of gratitude, my childhood sweetheart was forced to marry me. We've been married for 10 years and have 2 children, but he has never once smiled at me. He said, "If you hadn't forced me to marry you, I would have been with Wenxiao long ago." The children also call me an ugly monster, saying I'm not fit to be their mother. I fell into a deep depression and died before I turned 40. Just before I died, I heard my childhood friend covering his face and crying, "Finally dead. I've waited so long, now I can finally be with Wenxiao." When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my childhood friend asked the class beauty to watch the fireworks. My childhood friend Qin Dayuan nudged me. "Feng Yuzhu, are you even listening to me? Do you think Wenxiao will accept my confession?" Startled, I jumped up and rushed to the mirror. There were no hideous scars on my face. My entire face was soft and fair, not a single flaw in sight. I couldn't help but burst into tears. "I've been reborn." "Hey, Feng Yuzhu, what's wrong with you? Why are you crying?" "Let me tell you, I don't like you. The one I like is the class beauty." "Zhang Wenxiao, don't think that just because you're crying, I'll change my mind. I'm going to confess to Wenxiao later." Hearing Qin Dayuan's voice, I wiped my face. How could I forget that this scumbag is still here? Qin Dayuan touched his nose guiltily. "My parents used to say we should get married when we grow up, but that was all nonsense. I never agreed to it. You didn't take it seriously, did you?" I let out a cold snort. Of course I didn't take it seriously. You and Zhang Wenxiao are a perfect match, made for each other. A scumbag matches a cheap woman, truly a match made in heaven. Qin Dayuan let out a sigh of relief. "I'm glad you understand. You're great, but I see you as a sister. Only when I'm with Wenxiao does my heart truly beat." I gave Qin Dayuan a glare. "So now his heart isn't beating. Is he a dead man?" Qin Dayuan didn't notice my shift in attitude. He pointed at the boxes of fireworks in his home. "These are all fireworks I made for Wenxiao Xue. Do you think she'll be moved to tears when she sees them?" I looked at the boxes of fireworks in his home. Qin Dayuan had no idea that these fireworks were actually the death warrant for him and Zhang Wenxiao too. In his previous life, after the college entrance exam, Qin Dayuan, in order to confess his feelings to Zhang Wenxiao, had also personally made several boxes of fireworks just like this. He even called several classmates to come along and act as the atmosphere group. Once his confession succeeded, everyone would go in and light the fireworks, but before Qin Dayuan could confess, the fireworks at his home suddenly exploded, trapping him and Zhang Wenxiao in a sea of fire. All the classmates were terrified. I quickly took out my phone and dialed 119, but the fire was too fierce. If we had to wait for the firefighters to put it out, Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao would have already been burned to charcoal. At the critical moment, Qin Dayuan cried for help from inside, shouting, "Save me, Feng Yuzhu. Please come and save me." Qin Dayuan is my childhood friend. We grew up together. Our families have always assumed that Qin Dayuan and I are a couple. Qin Dayuan's mother often says, "When Yuzhu grows up, our Dayuan will marry her." Every time I blushed, Qin Dayuan would stare at me with bright eyes and secretly smile. Qin Dayuan knew that I liked him, so when trapped in a sea of fire, he instinctively called out to me for help. The door of Qin Dayuan's house had been worn out over the years. Sometimes it couldn't be opened from the inside and needed someone to turn the handle from the outside. Uncle Qin said that fixing the door would be too noisy and would affect Qin Dayuan's preparation for the college entrance exam, so it should be fixed after the exam. Unexpectedly, before Uncle Qin could fix the door, a fire broke out. Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao inside couldn't get the door open no matter how hard they tried, and they were hopping with anxiety. "Come and save us. I don't want to die. Please come quickly and help us open the door. Why are you all just standing there, doing nothing while people are dying?" But the students looked at each other, and no one dared to act rashly. The door trapping Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao had already been scorched red by the fire. Anyone who tried to open it now would inevitably get seriously burned. Who knew if the fire might spread to them? Seeing that Qin Dayuan and Feng Yuzhu were finding it increasingly difficult to breathe, Qin Dayuan placed all his hope on me, fixing his eyes on me. "Feng Yuzhu, I'm begging you, don't you like me? Please save me, open the door. I won't confess my feelings to Zhang Wenxiao anymore. I'll be with you." Cough, cough. "My parents treat you like their own daughter. If I die, what will happen to them? I'm their only son. Please save me." Listening to Qin Dayuan's heart-wrenching cries, my mind was in turmoil. I glanced at the door, now deformed by the fire, and my palms were drenched in sweat. In the end, I couldn't bear to watch Qin Dayuan burn to death alive. Gritting my teeth, I grabbed a bedsheet soaked in water, draped it over myself, and rushed inside. The feeling of being burned is truly unbearable. The moment my hand touched that red-hot door, the pain made me grimace, the skin on my right hand sizzled as it burned, and tears streamed down my face in large drops. Feng Yuzhu, hurry up and open the door. Qin Dayuan kept urging from inside. I had to endure the pain and continue opening the door. I figured my burned hand could be treated later, but if Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao died, that would be 2 lives lost. I can't just stand by and watch Qin Dayuan, who I grew up with, die. When I opened the door, I saw Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao already collapsed on the ground, barely conscious. I immediately pulled Qin Dayuan up, planning to get him out first and then come back for Zhang Wenxiao. But just as I was dragging Qin Dayuan toward the exit, the window frame wobbled and was about to crash down on him. I instinctively raised my hand to block the burning window frame, shielding Qin Dayuan from it, but the flames from the window frame licked my arm and face, causing such pain that I could barely stay on my feet. By the time I had rescued both Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao, the ambulance had just arrived. The nurses carried all 3 of us into the hospital. Qin Dayuan and Feng Yuzhu were not seriously injured. They only had small area burns that could heal with proper treatment, but my arms and face were severely burned over a large area, leaving me directly disfigured. Before my parents could say anything, Qin Dayuan knelt directly before them and said, "Yuzhu became like this because she saved me. I will marry her." Yet on the night of our wedding, Qin Dayuan took one look at my face and ran straight to the bathroom to vomit. He said, "Feng Yuzhu, I would rather you hadn't saved me, even if you hadn't come to rescue me. The firefighters could still have gotten Wenxiao and me out. Don't think that just because you saved me, I owe you something. Let me tell you, even if you force me to marry you, there will only ever be Zhang Wenxiao in my heart." In the 10 years after our marriage, he and I gradually had 2 children, but the children don't like me either. They imitate Qin Dayuan, cursing at me and forbidding me from picking them up from school. They said, if our classmates find out that our mother is an ugly monster, they will definitely laugh at us. In 10 years of marriage, I had barely stepped out of the house a few times, afraid of disgracing Qin Dayuan and the children. Before I even turned 40, I died of depression, living my life over again. I just want to see if Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao can survive without me. 3. Seeing me lost in thought, Qin Dayuan put on a stern face. "Feng Yuzhu, I'm about to get together with Wenxiao soon. You'd better drop your feelings for me. I think Li Kaisheng is a pretty good guy, and he seems to like you too. How about I set you 2 up?" I snapped back. "No need, I don't like you. Who you confess to is none of my business." Before the class beauty Zhang Wenxiao transferred to our school, everyone assumed Qin Dayuan and I were a couple. He never once denied it, but after Zhang Wenxiao transferred here, he came running to me, saying he only saw me as a sister. I knew perfectly well, he had simply changed his heart. "You don't like me. The whole compound knows you like me." I laughed. "Well, the whole compound also knows you like me, and you said you only see me as a sister, didn't you?" Qin Dayuan let out an awkward laugh. "That's different." Qin Dayuan wanted to say something more, but I didn't give him the chance. I pushed him out the door. "Aren't you going to confess? Hurry up and go." To put Zhang Wenxiao's mind at ease, Qin Dayuan even wanted me to serve as part of their atmosphere group. In my past life, I foolishly agreed. In the end, I ended up with my face disfigured. In this life, I just want to stay far away from those 2 scumbags, Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao. Whether they are alive or dead, it has nothing to do with me anymore. I ran to my room, turned on the computer, and changed my college application. Originally, my college entrance exam scores were good enough to get into a better school, just to go to the same school as Qin Dayuan. I deliberately gave up my first choice. Of course, in my past life, because of my disfigurement, I never ended up going to college. But this time, I can go to the school of my choice. The school I chose is in the south, and Qin Dayuan's school is in the north. Even if Qin Dayuan survives this time, there will be no more entanglements between him and me. For it's not that I never thought about warning Qin Dayuan to be careful with those fireworks, but when I think about how, in my past life, after I was disfigured, Qin Dayuan, afraid that my parents would hold him responsible, knelt before them and said he would marry me and take care of me for the rest of my life. My parents only felt relieved after handing me over to him. To prevent Qin Dayuan from looking down on me, my father transferred all of the family properties to him and used every connection he had to help Qin Dayuan start his own business. Later, Qin Dayuan became successful and the owner of a company, but Qin Dayuan never once smiled at me. Instead, he mocked me every day, saying I forced him to marry me. Not only that, but he also remained entangled with Zhang Wenxiao when I was lying in bed recovering from giving birth to our second child. He actually went out to rent a hotel room with Zhang Wenxiao. After I found out, I went to confront Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao. I thought they would feel ashamed and apologize. Unexpectedly, Qin Dayuan was holding Zhang Wenxiao. It's better that you found out, saves me from sneaking around. Zhang Wenxiao leaned in Qin Dayuan's arms and sneered at me sarcastically. Feng Yuzhu, take a look at your face. An ugly monster like you actually thought you could compete with me for Dayuan, don't you see? You're not worthy. I broke down crying. My face was ruined saving you too. How can you treat me like this? Qin Dayuan frowned. Are you annoying? You always bring this up. If I had known you would use this to threaten me, I would rather you hadn't come to save me. Zhang Wenxiao also said, even if you hadn't come to save us, we would have been fine. At that time, Dayuan was about to confess to me. I should be the one who is Mrs. Qin, so I really want to see if Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao can truly survive unscathed without me. 5. Sure enough, before long, there came a series of booming explosions from outside. The fireworks had exploded. In no time, Qin Dayuan's house was engulfed in flames. The fire came fiercely. By the time Qin Dayuan and Feng Yuzhu realized what was happening and tried to open the door to escape, they found that the door wouldn't budge. They could only shout for help from inside. Help, save us. Open the door for us. Hurry up and get us out of here. The classmates outside the house were jumping with anxiety. What should we do? Should we go save them? If you want to go save them, go ahead. I wouldn't dare. Look at that fire. The door is already glowing red from the heat. If we try to open it, we'll lose a layer of skin. Then what do? They'll die. Li Kaixiang, aren't you Qin Dayuan's good buddy? Aren't you going to save him? Li Kaixiang, being called out, quickly distanced himself. What good buddy? Why should I risk my life to save him from the window of my home? I saw my classmates anxiously fretting as if in a past life, yet not a single person went to save Qin Dayuan and Feng Yuzhu. In my past life, I was the one who dialed 119 first, but this time, those classmates, in their panic, took a full 5 minutes before even thinking to call for help, and because they weren't familiar with the address here, they stumbled over it when reporting it. Even getting the name of our neighborhood wrong several times, that wasted another 2 minutes. Feng Yuzhu seemed to have exhausted all her strength. Even her cries for help had grown much quieter. Qin Dayuan was clearly at his limit too, but even at this moment, he actually still thought of me. He shouted at Li Kaixiang, go call Feng Yuzhu to come save me. She will definitely come to save me. Hurry up. Reminded by Qin Dayuan, the classmates immediately ran to knock on my door. Feng Yuzhu, open up. Qin Dayuan's house is on fire. Hurry and save him. If you don't go save him, Qin Dayuan will be burned to death. I originally wanted to pretend I didn't hear. But who knew? Li Kaixiang shouted, I know you're in there. I just saw you talking to Qin Dayuan. Hurry up and open the door. At that point, I couldn't pretend not to hear even if I wanted to. If I don't open the door, knowing Li Kaixiang and the others as I do, they'll definitely shift the blame onto me. They'll say I refuse to help someone in need, not even opening the door. After all, we're neighbors. And I wouldn't have a good excuse to give Uncle Qin and the others. I had no choice but to steal myself and open the door. 6. I was just sleeping. What happened to you all? Li Kaixiang looked at me suspiciously. With all this commotion, you were still sleeping. The others chimed in. Hey, don't say so much. Feng Yuzhu, go save Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao quickly. They're trapped in the fire. I pretended to just notice the fire at Qin Dayuan's house. How did such a big fire start? Don't even mention it. Qin Dayuan's own fireworks exploded, and his door is broken. It can't be opened from the inside. Go open the door for them quickly. If you don't, they'll be burned to death. I pretended to be scared. No way. I don't dare. That door is covered in flames. If I go to save them, the fire will definitely burn me. At this moment, Qin Dayuan, trapped in the sea of fire, seemed to see me. He shouted, Feng Yuzhu, come and open the door. Cough, cough. I can't hold on much longer. My classmates also urged me. If you don't go now, Qin Dayuan will die. Yeah, hurry up. Don't dawdle. I asked them, why don't you go and save him? The classmates were stunned by my question, looking at each other in confusion. In the end, Li Kaixiang reacted the fastest and said, aren't you Qin Dayuan's girlfriend? How can you stand by and do nothing? Go open the door. Right. You and Qin Dayuan grew up together, so you should be the one to save him. I blinked my innocent big eyes. Me, Qin Dayuan's girlfriend? You must have mistaken me, right? Didn't Qin Dayuan call you all here today to witness his confession to Zhang Wenxiao? How could I possibly be his girlfriend? Li Kaixiang choked, then let out a resigned sigh. If you don't go rescue them, Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao will die. But I don't dare to. Such a big fire. Do you dare to go help? Seeing me ask this, no one dared to say another word. Finally, a student muttered softly, the firefighters are coming soon. Qin Dayuan and the others probably won't die, right? The next moment, a heart-wrenching scream came from inside The house, my face, my hand, after that sound, the house fell silent. About 5 minutes later, the firefighters finally arrived. 7 firefighters are truly professional. Once they arrived, it took them less than 2 minutes to break down the door. They carried Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao out. Zhang Wenxiao had already fainted, with burns of varying degrees on her arms and calves. It was more severe than in her previous life, but it didn't look life-threatening. As for Qin Dayuan, he was in a much worse state. His face and arms were covered in large area burns, looking far more severe than my previous self. I want to see Qin Dayuan, disfigured like this, whether he can still be with Zhang Wenxiao. Don't you all want me to save him? Fine. In this life, I'll just consider it as me letting you two be together. At 8 that evening, after my parents came back and heard that Qin Dayuan was hospitalized, they hurriedly packed their things to go visit him at the hospital. My parents wanted me to go with them. I initially wanted to refuse, but my mom said, I don't know what kind of disagreement you've had with Dayuan, but you two seem a bit unhappy lately, but he's been burned so badly. After all, you grew up together, you really should go see him. I couldn't argue with my parents, so I had no choice but to go along. On the hospital bed, Qin Dayuan's face and hands were all wrapped up like big zongzi. Uncle Qin pulled us aside and whispered to us, the doctor said the child is disfigured and cannot be cured. I haven't told him yet, afraid he won't be able to take it. You two, just pretend you don't know. Aunt Wang was sobbing uncontrollably. This child's whole life is ruined. My mother also wiped away a tear. Can't be cured. Then, what's going to happen to Dayuan in the future? Uncle Qin clenched his fists. Dayuan said he got burned so badly because he was trying to save that girl named Zhang Wenxiao. My son is burned like this, yet that girl's family hasn't shown any sign of acknowledgement so far. If they don't give an explanation, I won't let this go. Aunt Wang took my hand. Yuju, I know Dayuan was being foolish, he was blind and ungrateful, he wronged you, but he has been closest to you since childhood. Can you go and help Auntie talk some sense into him? To be honest, Aunt Wang has always been kind to me, and faced with her request, I really couldn't bring myself to say no. 9. After entering the hospital room, Qin Dayuan was already awake. I thought Qin Dayuan would question me about why I didn't save him, but the first thing he said when he saw me was, Feng Yuju, have you been reborn? I was startled, then gave him a look as if he were an idiot. Reborn? Are you dreaming? Did the fever get to your brain? Qin Dayuan let out a breath upon hearing my answer. It seems it was all a coincidence. Heaven must have heard my wish and given me a second chance. This time, you didn't come to save me, so I can be with Zhang Wenxiao. I clenched my fists. It seemed Qin Dayuan had also been reborn. Qin Dayuan looked at me. Feng Yuju, I no longer owe you anything. I finally don't have to see your disfigured face anymore. You don't know, back then, when I looked at your face, I would wake up in the middle of the night terrified. This time, I saved Wenxiao, and I can finally marry her. My parents said that as long as I get proper treatment, the burns on my face and hands can be healed. See, I told you, even if you hadn't come to save me, I would have been fine. Qin Dayuan muttered to himself, lost in his own world. The next moment, he realized something and suddenly asked me, why hasn't Wenxiao come to see me yet? Is she injured? I replied, it seems her arm and calf are hurt. Qin Dayuan grew anxious. Is it serious? I clearly blocked the window frame for her. It's not too serious. The doctor said that with proper treatment, it can still be cured, but Qin Dayuan, you're different. You'll never get better. That's good. That's good. Once she's better, she'll definitely come to thank me, and then agreed to be with me. I pouted. Qin Dayuan was still dreaming. He really did protect Zhang Wenxiao well. Zhang Wenxiao didn't suffer any serious injuries and was discharged from the hospital after a simple bandage, yet from start to finish, Zhang Wenxiao never once thought to thank Qin Dayuan. As far as I know, Zhang Wenxiao kept cursing Qin Dayuan incessantly. She said that if it weren't for Qin Dayuan setting off fireworks to confess his feelings to her, she would never have been burned. After all, my face is what I rely on to make a living. It's all because of that Qin Dayuan and his stupid fireworks. If it weren't for him, how could I have been burned? If this leaves a scar, I will never let him off the hook. Qin Dayuan's dream of playing the hero saving a damsel in distress is shattered. Moreover, the doctor said that Qin Dayuan's right hand is already useless and he won't be able to do heavy work anymore. Even picking up chopsticks is difficult. If he knew he had become a cripple, I wonder if he would regret saving Zhang Wenxiao. At this moment, I am immensely relieved that Qin Dayuan has also been reborn. Heaven has eyes after all. In my past life, Qin Dayuan kept insisting that if I didn't save him, he could be openly together with Zhang Wenxiao. Even right before my death, he brought Zhang Wenxiao along to provoke me. He said, Feng Yuju, you're finally going to die. After waiting all these years, I can finally be with Wenxiao. This time, he finally got what he wanted. I didn't go to save him, but I wonder if he can bear the outcome of becoming a cripple. I'm really looking forward to seeing the look on Qin Dayuan's face when he finds out that Zhang Wenxiao never intended to be with him after he becomes a cripple. 10. Qin Dayuan didn't keep me waiting long. Paper can never wrap fire. After 2 weeks in the hospital, Qin Dayuan realized that Zhang Wenxiao still hadn't come to see him. He started sending messages to Zhang Wenxiao. Wenxiao, are you fully recovered from your injuries? I heard you were discharged from the hospital. Why haven't you come to see me? I was planning to confess my feelings to you, to ask if you would be willing to be my girlfriend. Are you busy? If you see this, please reply to me. Wenxiao, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you replying to my messages? Qin Dayuan sent countless messages to Zhang Wenxiao, but Zhang Wenxiao didn't reply to a single one. Even as slow as Qin Dayuan was, he realized something was wrong. He started calling Zhang Wenxiao frantically, but all were rejected. When he called again, he found that he had been blocked by Zhang Wenxiao. He sent a message to confront Zhang Wenxiao. Why did you block my phone number? The response was a red exclamation mark. Qin Dayuan had no choice but to frantically at Zhang Wenxiao in the class group chat. Did you block me? Why, Zhang Wenxiao, what do you mean by this? I just saved you, and you turn around and block me. Didn't you say you liked me? Didn't you say that as long as I dumped Feng Yuzhu, you would be with me? Under the barrage of messages from Qin Dayuan, Zhang Wenxiao finally couldn't take it anymore. She went off in the group chat. How dare you say you saved me? If you hadn't been stupid enough to mess with fireworks, would they have exploded? I was supposed to become a star. Look at my arm now. Can I still do that? You've ruined my dream, and you don't expect me to thank you, do you? Qin Dayuan was stunned. But if I hadn't saved you by blocking the window frame, you would have been burned to death. I was also severely burned because of you. The doctor said it would take a long time to heal. Zhang Wenxiao shot back. Go to hell, idiot. If it weren't for you, the fire wouldn't have happened at all. Zhang Wenxiao at Qin Dayuan. Wait, you said you can heal. Qin Dayuan. Yeah, the doctor said I can be cured, but it'll take a bit longer. Are you feeling sorry for me? Zhang Wenxiao sent a speechless emoji and at Qin Dayuan. Are you sure? I heard you've become a useless person. After Zhang Wenxiao sent that message, the entire group fell silent for a full 2 minutes. Then Qin Dayuan went crazy, frantically sending messages. Zhang Wenxiao, what do you mean? What do you mean by calling me a useless person? Explain yourself clearly. The doctor clearly said my face and hands can be cured. Are you joking? Don't take advantage of my feelings for you to make such jokes. If you keep this up, I won't like you anymore. Zhang Wenxiao, just say something. What do you mean? Zhang Wenxiao, maybe you should ask the doctor again. Qin Dayuan, Zhang Wenxiao, jokes have their limits. Are you saying my face and hands will never heal? Zhang Wenxiao, that's right, impossible. You're lying to me. My parents clearly told me that the doctor said I only had minor burns. Zhang Wenxiao rolled her eyes. Minor burns that keep you in the hospital for half a month. I was discharged the same day. I was the one with minor burns. The group chat went silent for another 2 minutes. The next second, Qin Dayuan at me. Raindrop, you tell them, you know it. Tell them my face and arms can be healed. I smiled, still hoping to drag me into the battlefield. No way. I just want to watch the two of you tear each other apart. Seeing that I wasn't replying, Qin Dayuan started tagging Li Kaisheng and the other classmates, but no one wanted to get involved in this mess. Not a single person replied. They all silently played dead. In the end, it was the homeroom teacher who couldn't help but comfort Qin Dayuan. The future is still long. Medicine is also advancing. There will definitely be a cure in the future. Qin Dayuan fell silent. Knowing him as I do, he must have gone to the doctor to find out about his condition. Within 10 minutes, Qin Dayuan was frantically at ing Zhang Wenxiao in the group chat. I'm disfigured. I got disfigured saving you. Zhang Wenxiao, you have to take responsibility. If it weren't for saving you, I wouldn't have been disfigured. Qin Dayuan frantically at Zhang Wenxiao, venting his emotions, but before Qin Dayuan could react, Zhang Wenxiao directly left the group chat. This was a clear sign that he didn't want to have any connection with Qin Dayuan. Qin Dayuan was furious, and it was said that he smashed several basins every day in the hospital. He wouldn't even eat. Whenever we tried to feed him, he would snatch the bowl and throw it on the floor. When my mother heard about this, she sighed. I never realized Qin Dayuan's child had such a temper. Good thing he didn't end up with Yuzhu, otherwise, with Yuzhu's personality, she would definitely be bullied. My father chimed in, yeah, he was such a nice young man when he was little. How did he turn out so wrong as he grew up? My parents didn't know that in my past life, I ended up with Qin Dayuan, and just as my mom said, I endured a lot of mistreatment, but thankfully, it's all over now, in this life. Qin Dayuan won't have the chance to make me suffer even a little. I thought that was the End of it. Unexpectedly, just a few days later, I actually saw Qin Dayuan online. 11. In the shot, Qin Dayuan had disheveled hair, his face and hands wrapped in thick bandages, leaving only his 2 eyes and a mouth exposed. Although Qin Dayuan's skin was tightly wrapped, a fair amount of dark yellow bloody fluid was still seeping through. Without even looking, one could imagine how badly his skin had rotted. He cried in front of the camera, saying that he was disfigured while trying to save his girlfriend, but she despised him and dumped him. He said, "Zhang Wenxiao, I don't blame you. I know you can't accept my face right now, but you have to understand, if I hadn't shielded you from that window frame, you would be the one disfigured. You can't just abandon me like this." In the video, Qin Dayuan wept bitterly, appearing as a pitiful man abandoned by his girlfriend. Since it was in the same city, many people in our city came across this video. Many netizens commented below, "Can we dig up this woman's information? He saved her, and she turns around and abandons her boyfriend. Is that something a human would do? I've seen plenty of women like her, self-serving and ungrateful. Once she thought the guy was down and out, she just broke up with him." Zhang Wenxiao, come out and face the online backlash. The power of netizens is formidable. Within an hour, all of Zhang Wenxiao's personal information had been dug up. Qin Dayuan hypocritically advised netizens, "My girlfriend just can't see things clearly for a moment. Please don't scold her. I believe that once she comes to her senses, she will come back to me." But no matter how much netizens and Qin Dayuan had edged Zhang Wenxiao did not respond at all. This doesn't seem like Zhang Wenxiao's style at all. Based on my understanding of Zhang Wenxiao, she must have been holding back something big. 12. Sure enough, the next day, Zhang Wenxiao went live to fire back at Qin Dayuan. She also invited many classmates who were present that day, including Qin Dayuan's close friend Li Kaixing. She said, "The exploding fireworks were made by Qin Dayuan. He wanted to confess his feelings to me that day, and I was originally planning to turn him down, but before I could even utter a refusal, the fireworks exploded. That window frame was clearly falling toward Qin Dayuan. He didn't get disfigured trying to save me at all. The classmates behind me were there at the scene. They can testify to it." Qin Dayuan fabricated so many lies just to scam for traffic. I hope he can recognize his mistakes. For the sake of our past as classmates, I won't pursue Qin Dayuan's legal responsibility. After Feng Yuzhu finished speaking, the classmates behind her began chattering about what happened that day. What they said was more or less the same as Zhang Wenxiao's account. Li Kaixing said, "Qin Dayuan, I'm your buddy, and I really don't want to see you keep making mistakes. I'm sorry you were disfigured, but you can't drag Zhang Wenxiao into this. She's clearly not your girlfriend, and you didn't save her either. Please stop morally coercing her." Netizens were also confused. What's going on here? Did he save her or not? I think it's hopeless. My guess is that the guy got disfigured and couldn't find a girlfriend, so he's clinging to this woman. Not necessarily. I think what the guy said sounds pretty genuine. Without knowing the full picture, I won't comment, waiting for the outcome. I watched Feng Yuzhu speak with such conviction that I had to give her credit. She was quite clever. Her words were a mix of truth and lies, making it hard to tell right from wrong, and all the classmates were speaking up for her, which meant she must have given them plenty of favors. I wonder how Qin Dayuan will handle this. 13. Not long after, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. As soon as I answered, Qin Dayuan's sinister voice came through. "Feng Yuzhu, help me. As long as you clarify online that you saw me save Zhang Wenxiao, netizens will definitely believe me. That bitch Zhang Wenxiao. I saved her life, and instead of thanking me, she actually slanders me like this. Wasn't it you who first morally blackmailed her? Qin Dayuan, you and Zhang Wenxiao really are a perfect match." Qin Dayuan was stunned for a moment, ignoring my sarcasm, and begged me again, "You're the only one who can help me. Li Kaixing and the others have all been bribed by Zhang Wenxiao. Those bastards. Just wait, I'll make them pay." Feng Yuzhu, we grew up together. You'll help me, won't you? I've told you, your business with Zhang Wenxiao has nothing to do with me. Don't call me again. After saying that, I directly ignored the roaring on the other end of Qin Dayuan's phone and hung up. I also blocked this number. The incident involving Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao has been fermenting fiercely online, and by now, public opinion seems to be leaning toward Zhang Wenxiao's side. After all, he has plenty of witnesses. Qin Dayuan tried to gain an advantage but ended up worse off. He originally wanted to morally blackmail Zhang Wenxiao, but now he himself has become a pariah. After I clicked dislike on the video of Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao cursing each other, the platform indeed stopped recommending their content to me. My ears enjoyed peace and quiet for several days. I thought that in this lifetime, I would never have anything to do with Qin Dayuan again, but just 1 week before I was supposed to report to university, Uncle Qin knocked on my door. Uncle Qin said, ever since Dayuan found out that his face and hands would never fully recover, he started giving up on himself. constantly muttering things like, "This isn't how it should be, the one who got disfigured shouldn't have been me." But, Yuju, seeing the grim look on my parents' faces, Uncle Chin quickly explained, Dayuan must have been stimulated, that's why he's talking nonsense. Yuju, please don't mind him. Dayuan hasn't eaten or drunk anything these past few days. The doctor says if this continues, he probably won't make it. Yuju, Dayuan wants to see you. For your uncle's sake, could you go see him one more time? Originally, given Chin Dayuan's deranged state, my parents didn't want me to have any more contact with him, but Uncle Chin's hair has turned mostly white in the past few days. He repeatedly assured me, this is the last time. I know that Dayuan has become like this and is no longer worthy of Yuju. It's because he didn't know how to cherish her and had to go and fall for that Zhang Wenxiao. He saved her. But in the end, she thought he was a cripple and just walked away without a second thought. Uncle Chin looked at me, tears streaming down his aged face. No, I'm afraid only you, Yuju, can talk some sense into Dayuan. Just think of it as helping your uncle. He's my only son. As Uncle Chin spoke, he actually started to kneel down before me. I quickly stopped him, agreed to let him see Chin Dayuan one last time. Actually, I had a bit of a selfish motive myself. I also wanted to see what Chin Dayuan looked like as a ruined man. I want to ask him, do you regret it? 12. As soon as Chin Dayuan saw me, he forced an awkward smile. With his disfigured face, it was truly eerie. The skin on his face was so pitted you could grow vegetables in it. It was much worse than in my past life. Raindrop, I regret it. You were supposed to come and save me. Let's go back to our past life. In that life, you were disfigured saving me. And not only did I not despise you, I married you and we had 2 children. Our family of 4 is truly happy. Yuju, can you, for the sake of our past life, continue to be with me in this life? I chuckled twice and asked him, in our past life, were we really happy? Chin Dayuan choked for a moment, then replied, of course, we were a model couple. Yuju, believe me, let's stay together in this life and have 2 more children. Have children? Do you have that ability? That's right. Besides his face and arms, Chin Dayuan's manhood was also burned. In this lifetime, he could forget about having children of his own. Chin Dayuan clenched his fists, clearly hit where it hurt by my words. It doesn't matter if we don't have kids. After all, you don't like children anyway. It's still fine for just the 2 of us to live a private life together. Ha, Chin Dayuan, you've ruined my life once, and now you want to ruin it again. Didn't you say that if it happened again, you wouldn't want me to save you? Why the regret now? Chin Dayuan's eyes widened. You've also been reborn. I nodded. Chin Dayuan murmured, no wonder you didn't come to save me. Chin Dayuan's smile was uglier than a cry. Feng Yuju, you must be really happy to see me regret, right? In our last life, you were disfigured, and I treated you like that. Now that I'm disfigured, I thought Zhang Wenxiao wouldn't mind me, but she actually bribed Li Kaisheng and the others, and refused to acknowledge that I saved her. I truly regret it. I don't like Zhang Wenxiao anymore. It's only now that I realize the only one who was truly good to me was you. You're the only one I love. Yuju, can you forgive me? In this life, let's be together properly. Give me a chance to make it up to you. Chin Dayuan keeps saying he loves me, but in truth, the only one he loves is himself. In my past life, after I was disfigured, he said he loved Zhang Wenxiao. In this life, after he was disfigured and Zhang Wenxiao abandoned him, he claims I am his greatest love. I looked at him with contempt. You want to be with me? Look in the mirror. Are you even worthy? Chin Dayuan stood with his mouth open, staring at me blankly. He laughed one moment and cried the next, looking as if he had gone mad. I sensed something was wrong and turned to leave, but the next second, Chin Dayuan pulled a fruit knife from under the pillow and lunged at me. Since we can't be together in this life, let's die together. In the next life, I will treat you well. But before the knife could reach me, I kicked Chin Dayuan away with one swift motion. Looks like that month of Taekwondo training wasn't wasted after all. It might not work against others, but it's more than enough to deal with a weakling who's been bedridden for 2 months since the hospital had surveillance. It captured the process of Chin Dayuan attacking me. Chin Dayuan was arrested and sent to prison. Before he was taken away, he was still struggling. I don't want to kill anyone. I just want to jump straight to the next life with Feng Yuju. What are you doing? I'm not mentally ill. Everything I said is true. 13. It wasn't until I started college that I came across the follow-up on Zhang Wenxiao. Originally, Zhang Wenxiao gained a bit of popularity by slandering Chin Dayuan, but she never expected that justice has long arms. The scene of the fire that day was captured in its entirety by a photography enthusiast from the building across the street. He posted the video online. Zhang Wenxiao immediately suffered the backlash. Previously, she tearfully complained about being morally blackmailed by Chin Dayuan. appearing on screen with a delicate and vulnerable demeanor. This stirred up a protective instinct in many netizens. Now, netizens have discovered that it was indeed Qin Dayuan who saved her. Not only did she not thank Qin Dayuan, but she also bit the hand that helped her. Outraged netizens, taking advantage of Zhang Wenxia's outing, splashed a bottle of sulfuric acid on her face. Now, like Qin Dayuan, she is disfigured. In her past life, Qin Dayuan and Zhang Wenxiao repeatedly insisted that I not save them. In this life, I finally lived up to their expectations. I am going to start living my own life. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My nephew failed the college entrance exam and was tricked by a dishonest agent into thinking he could buy a Harvard degree for 500,000 yuan. My sister-in-law, in an attempt to pressure my mother into giving her the money, encouraged my nephew to drink paraquat in front of the whole family, but I knew that anyone who drinks paraquat would die an extremely painful death. Without exception, I snatched the paraquat from my nephew's hand, saving him from disaster. Later, I drove away the unscrupulous agent and helped my nephew enroll in a vocational college. He didn't study hard and became unemployed right after graduation. My sister-in-law told him, "It's all your aunt's fault for meddling back then, otherwise your grandmother would have felt sorry for you and paid for you to study at Harvard University. How could you be earning so little money now?" My nephew took it seriously and stabbed me to death. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my nephew's college entrance exam results were released. "You little brat, how did you only score this low?" Sister-in-law Maya's loud voice caught the attention of the whole family. Today was the day her son Tom received his college entrance exam results. He had always performed poorly academically, so scoring just over 300 points was hardly a surprise, but sister-in-law believed that since I, a girl, had managed to get into a prestigious university, there was no reason her son couldn't do the same. I always say things like, "Tom is smart, he just doesn't put his mind to studying. Aren't boys naturally better at science than girls?" hoping that Tom, who always ranks at the bottom in every monthly exam during his senior year of high school, will suddenly shine in the college entrance exams. Tom slumped onto the sofa with a displeased expression. "I told you, this year's exam questions are more suitable for girls to write. We boys are better suited for questions with higher difficulty, not the kind that rely purely on computational volume." Sister-in-law, who hadn't received much education, was also swayed by Tom's confident demeanor. "What should we do then? This is unfair. I'm going to report it to the Education Bureau." Tom naturally didn't want his mother to embarrass herself, and as the two were arguing, they received a call from an unknown number. "Hello, is this Tom? We are the admissions team from Harvard University." His mother joyfully answered the phone and spoke for about 10 to 20 minutes. After hanging up, she tightly hugged her son. "Tom, you've really made your father proud. The Harvard admissions office called and specifically asked for you." But then, she sighed again, "It's just that sending you to school requires 500,000. We don't have that money, we'll have to ask your grandmother for it." As she spoke, her eyes kept glancing at the expressions on my and my mother's faces. In my previous life, when I heard my sister-in-law say this, my first reaction was that she had been deceived. Since when does Harvard University call to recruit a student whose scores didn't even meet the undergraduate cutoff? Moreover, how could attending university possibly cost as much as 500,000? I spent hours trying to persuade her with great patience, and finally managed to talk her out of that absurd idea. With the mindset that we are all one family, I carefully considered Tom's college application and helped him choose a junior college known as the Little Harvard within the vocational education system. As long as he studies hard, he will have a significant advantage after graduation. Whether he chooses to enter the workforce directly or pursue further education to upgrade to a bachelor's degree, however, I never expected that once Tom started at the junior college, freed from the supervision of his sister-in-law and brother, he would spend the next 3 years indulging in endless fun and learning absolutely nothing. After graduating, I ended up unemployed and could only barely find a job as a salesperson near home. Not only was it exhausting, but the pay was also low. In the same year, I had already completed my master's degree and started working at a multinational company. Whenever I returned home for the holidays, my sister-in-law never failed to criticize me. "If it weren't for your aunt stopping me from asking your grandma for money back then, you would have graduated from Harvard and landed a job even better than your aunt's. Your aunt is just afraid that you'll be more successful than her. She's jealous of you, and it's my fault for being foolish enough to believe her." I was furious and retorted, "Mom, you were there too, weren't you? You know perfectly well whether that person was A fraud or not, who knew my mom would sigh and say with feigned innocence, "If I had known it would be like this, I would have just spent that 500,000 back then." I was completely dumbfounded. It's important to know that back then, I had tried so hard to dissuade my sister-in-law, but it was actually my mother who had instructed me to do so. She said it wasn't convenient for her to persuade her, because my sister-in-law would misunderstand and think she was unwilling to pay. I stepped up for her, but in the end, I ended up being the one who was wrong no matter what. With no one's support, I fell completely silent, treating it as my sister-in-law venting her emotions, and stopped paying attention to any sarcastic remarks or ridicule. I never expected that my concession would be interpreted by Maya as tacit approval. She would often complain in front of my nephew, saying that I had taken his good job. My nephew blamed all the misfortunes in his life on me. The next time I went home to visit, in a fit of rage, he killed me. "You stole my life." Just before I lost consciousness, I happened to hear my nephew's furious roar. "So in this life, I'm going to give your life back to you exactly as it was." When my mom coughed to signal me to speak, I pretended to be playing a game and casually said, "I didn't get into Harvard, so I don't know their admissions process. Besides, it's been years since I graduated. A lot of things have changed, apart from that one sentence." No matter how much my mom nudged me, I didn't say another word. In my previous life, I tried so hard to persuade them that my mouth went dry, and the outcome is still vivid in my mind. I will no longer involve myself in their chaotic mother-in-law and daughter-in-law relationship. As for Tom, whatever life he leads in this lifetime is entirely his own choice. After I finished speaking, the disdain and smugness in Maya's eyes were unmistakable. Heidi worked so hard in high school, yet she still didn't get into Harvard. If you ask me, boys are just naturally better at studying. Look at our Tom, he plays and studies, and he excels at both. With that, she turned to face my mother directly. "Mom, Tom is your only grandson. Him getting into Harvard University would bring honor to our ancestors. He absolutely must attend." My mother was very reluctant. She had money, but she was even more famously stingy. When I was in high school, the crotches of my pants were all torn, and she would patch them up with various fabrics. From a distance, my backside looked like a patchwork of colors. My classmates all laughed at me, calling me a monkey's butt. As a high school girl, I was insecure and sensitive. I went home crying and begged her to buy me a new pair of pants. Her eyes nearly popped out of her head in anger. "Your mother is working herself to death to earn money, and all you care about is dressing up, at such a young age. Who are you trying to seduce?" At that moment, I knew she loved money more than anything else. To her, money was safest when firmly held in her own hands. The 500,000 was practically asking for her life. Sure enough, my mother forced an awkward smile, avoiding my sister-in-law's gaze and turning to me with a pleading look. "Heidi, I remember you didn't spend that much money when you were in college." Not only did I not spend money, but she even took a portion of the wages I earned from working part-time during college. I sneered inwardly. Having been reborn, I won't stand up for her anymore. Times have changed. I really don't understand high school matters these days. You should listen to your sister-in-law and Tom. They know much more than I do. Hearing my words, Maya felt even more emboldened and shouted at my mom, "Mom, once Tom graduates, he'll be able to earn back this 500,000 in just a year. By then, what we give you will be far more than just this amount." My mom didn't want to be the bad guy, so she kept blinking at me. I pretended not to understand what she meant. "Mom, are your eyes bothering you? Should we go see a doctor?" Hearing this, my mom felt too guilty to keep hinting at me and could only awkwardly say to my sister-in-law, 50,000 is not a small amount. I think we need to think about this a bit more." After saying that, she pretended to be tired and needed a nap, shutting her sister-in-law out of her room. Her sister-in-law was left out in the cold, glaring at the door with a ferocious look as if she wanted to tear it to pieces. I shrugged indifferently and went back to my room as well, because I knew the real show was yet to come. In my previous life, after I tried to persuade my sister-in-law, she refused to give up. In the middle of the night, she secretly knocked on my mother's door, begging her to give Tom 500,000 for his education. My mother, on the other hand, pretended to be a timid, indecisive woman who only listened to her daughter, and pitifully said to my sister-in-law, "It's not that I don't want to, but Heidi said it's all a scam. If I had the money, why wouldn't I spend it on my own grandson?" My sister-in-law hit a soft wall with my mother, but she wasn't convinced. She believed that I was the one stopping my mother, so to get the money, she teamed up with Tom to give my mom a heavy dose of pressure, forcing her to give in and hand over the money obediently. She arranged for Tom to threaten suicide at the dinner table, to make it more convincing. My sister-in-law even brought out the half-empty bottle of pesticide left At home, listen to your mom, just take a sip to scare your grandma. Once you get into Harvard, you'll have a lifetime of worry-free living with plenty to eat and drink. My sister-in-law tipped Tom's hand and placed the yellowish-brown pesticide bottle into his palm. Tom was very resistant. Mom, this is pesticide. What if I get poisoned after drinking it? My sister-in-law seemed frustrated by his lack of initiative, and her voice grew noticeably louder. Who said you have to swallow it? Just pretend to hold it in your mouth and spit it out later. You're supposed to be a top student, yet you're not as quick-witted as your mom, a rural woman. The scene of their conspiracy happened to be overheard by me when I got up in the middle of the night. In my previous life, I took my sister-in-law's words to heart and immediately became alarmed. The half bottle of pesticide left at home was none other than paraquat, a highly toxic substance that had been banned from sale by the government several years earlier. Even if it was just held in the mouth, it would still be fatal, though the onset of symptoms would be a few days slower than if it were swallowed directly. So at the dinner table the next day, as soon as Tom pulled out that little bottle, I swiftly snatched it away, preventing a tragedy. I saved his life, only to end up causing my own death. In this life, I won't intervene again. If Tom still chooses to listen to his mother, then let him face the consequences himself. The next day at noon, Tom, who usually slept until the afternoon, was already sitting at the dining table early. My mother looked at him, surprised and taken aback. "Oh, why is my grandson up so early?" I stared at the dark circles under Tom's eyes and sneered inwardly, thinking he must have stayed up all night, agonizing just to put on a show. Lunch was almost over, and there was still no movement from Tom's side. My sister-in-law couldn't sit still anymore, coughing frantically and constantly urging her. "Dear son, Tom, did you forget something?" I silently drank my soup, watching the undercurrents swirling around the dining table. Finally, Tom couldn't sit still anymore. While my mother went back to the kitchen to get more rice, he tremblingly pulled out a medicine bottle from under the table. Looking at that familiar yellowish-brown bottle, I couldn't help but sigh. Interfering in others' karma never ends well. Following my nephew's trembling arm upward, I accidentally met his desperate, pleading eyes. So he knows fear after all. But in my previous life, when I saved him, how did he repay me? The sensation of a sharp knife piercing flesh and blood gushing out surged through me like a tide. I coldly averted my eyes. "I've learned my lesson about ungrateful people once, and that's enough for me." Without me stopping him, urged on by my sister-in-law, Tom downed the paraquat. The moment my mother returned to her seat, in an instant, the entire dining table descended into chaos. Screams, retching sounds, and the shattering of bowls couldn't drown out my sister-in-law's cries for money. "Tom, even if you want to go to school, you can't do it like this. She's your own grandmother. If you just talk to her properly, would she really refuse to give you the 500,000? My sister-in-law still doesn't know that every word she's saying now is sounding the death knell for Tom's life. From the moment he drank the paraquat, his life began counting down. I put down the bowl with slight disgust, stepping away from the chaotic trio to avoid being accidentally splashed by the paraquat spilled all over the table. Tom must have truly listened to his mother, as he vomited every last drop of the pesticide he had ingested onto the table. My sister-in-law and my mother both had some paraquat splashed on their arms and faces, and the intense burning sensation made them uncomfortable. The three of them scrambled to run to the balcony, kitchen, and bathroom, desperately rinsing under the faucet, especially Tom, who was vigorously gargling in the mop sink on the balcony. Watching the three people who had ruined my life in my previous existence in such a sorry state, I felt a great sense of satisfaction. After checking myself thoroughly to ensure I hadn't been contaminated by the pesticide, I tiptoed out of the house. First, I bought some heat-clearing and detoxifying medicine and a bottle of iodine at the pharmacy downstairs. Then I found a cafe to sit and enjoy the view. As evening approached, I finally received a call from my brother. I had just answered the phone and hadn't even managed to say hello when my brother's roar came through the receiver like a tidal wave. "Where the hell have you been? With such a big issue at home, you still have the nerve to go out and fool around. Get your ass back here right now." I shook my coffee cup, pretending to be anxious. "Bro, I went to the pharmacy to buy medicine, and I'm on my way back now." Clearly, my explanation didn't satisfy him, or perhaps he had finally found a scapegoat to vent his anger on. He yelled at me even louder. "Buying medicine is taking you so damn long. It's like you've dropped dead outside. Do you need me to go collect your corpse?" I secretly rolled my eyes. "You really will be collecting a corpse, but it'll be your son's." When I finally dawdled my way back home, I was met with my furious brother, my mother and sister-in-law holding their arms and faces, and my nephew lying on the sofa to recuperate. When my brother saw me come home, he flew into a rage, picked up a cup, and threw it at my feet. Tom drank pesticide, and you didn't even try to stop him. Are your eyes just for decoration? I put the medicine on the entryway table and said calmly, if even my sister-in-law, who was sitting right next to him, couldn't stop him, how could I, sitting across from Tom, have managed to stop him? It seemed that my brother thought I made sense. As he then turned his anger toward Maya, what exactly happened? Why did my son drink pesticide? How did he know where that half bottle of pesticide was kept? My sister-in-law guiltily averted her eyes and muttered softly, how would I know? Hearing my sister-in-law say that, I pretended to suddenly remember something and exclaimed, oh, I remember now. Last night when I got up to use the bathroom, I heard my sister-in-law say something like, just take a sip to scare your grandma. After saying that, I paused and looked at Maya, whose face had already turned as pale as a ghost. Sister-in-law, when you said take a sip, you weren't actually encouraging Tom to drink pesticide, were you? Maya turned pale with fear at my words, stammering as she spoke. Seeing this, my brother didn't waste any words and slapped my sister-in-law, causing her to collapse onto the sofa. Damn you, are you trying to kill the future of my Huang family? Maya covered her face, her eyes filled with resentment as she stared at my mother. It's all your mother's fault. Our son is just short on tuition for Harvard University. If it weren't for your mother stubbornly refusing to pay, would I have let Tom end up like this? As she spoke, she seemed to have found the root of all the problems and started yelling at my mother. My mother didn't back down either, and the two shrewish women stood off against each other for over 10 minutes. It wasn't until my brother couldn't take it anymore and shouted that the two finally quieted down. All right, stop arguing, Heidi. You stay home and take care of Tom. My brother is used to being a hands-off boss. After giving me orders like a lord, he just wants to go back to his room and rest. How could I possibly take care of them? By now, paraquat must have already spread throughout Tom's entire body through his bloodstream. Although Tom doesn't seem to be reacting right now, paraquat rapidly causes fibrosis in the lungs. The entire process of death is like being slowly buried alive. There's no way I'm taking the blame for this, brother, but I have to go back to work tomorrow. I can't. Get away, my sister-in-law retorted sharply. What job could be more important than your nephew? Isn't the most important thing for a girl to support her family? I didn't want to pay her any attention and instead turned to my brother and said, I'm currently working as a live stream assistant, and if I miss one session, I have to pay 10 times the penalty fee. Who can help me cover these 20,000 yuan? After saying that, I looked at my sister-in-law, and she immediately fell silent. Pretending to be a quail, Tom's illness struck faster than I had expected. As soon as I arrived at the train station, my brother called again, hurry to the hospital, Tom is getting his stomach pumped, and he might need a blood transfusion. Please come quickly, Tom needs a blood transfusion. What am I supposed to do there? Do they want to draw my blood? But then I thought, even if I didn't want to, the hospital couldn't force me to give blood, so I agreed to go to the hospital, treating it as if I were seeing Tom for the last time. I hailed a ride and arrived at the emergency hall in less than 20 minutes. My mom and brother were standing with their backs to me at the front desk. The two of them seemed to be anxiously discussing something, completely unaware that I had approached. That girl's career has just started. If we ask for such a huge amount, will she even give us the money? My mother hesitated and looked at my brother. That girl probably refers to me. I held my breath and stood a few steps away from them. Perhaps the foot traffic was too heavy, as my brother didn't notice the motionless figure behind him at all and said loudly, Mom, what do you mean? Are you feeling sorry for that girl? She can earn 2001 live stream, so wouldn't she be making a fortune in a month? Besides, isn't she just a bastard you picked up from outside? You feel sorry for her, but don't you feel sorry for your own son? My mom seemed convinced and waved her hand. All right, I won't interfere. Whatever money you can get from her is yours. I won't take a single cent. I heard their conversation and stood frozen in place, feeling as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over my head from head to toe, my heart growing colder and colder. For so many years, I thought my mother was simply biased in favor of my brother and stingy, but the truth turned out to be so cruel. The mother and brother I had called my own for over 20 years were actually not related to me by blood. Not only had they stolen me, but they were also sucking the life out of me. I quietly walked back to the entrance of the emergency room and called my brother. I'm at the hospital. Where are you guys? My brother saw me and immediately dragged me to the payment window without any explanation. Hurry, Heidi, help Tom pay the medical bill so the doctor can proceed with the next steps of the rescue. I looked at the long payment slip, then glanced at the worldly man in front of me. Hatred consumed all my thoughts, but what was satisfying was that they were about to face retribution. His own son is already in the emergency room, and he's still dragging his feet, insisting I pay. Doesn't he realize that every second wasted is Tom's life? I shrugged. I don't have any money. I just started working and haven't been paid yet. Where would I get the money? What do you mean no money? "I think you just don't want to help the family," my brother said, and then snatched my phone to check my balance, which contained all the savings I had worked hard to accumulate over the years. At that critical moment, the doctor appeared. "Where is Tom's family? Bring the payment slip. Right away, right away, we're paying now." While my brother was replying to the doctor, I snatched back my phone and immediately locked the screen. The nurse also reported what she had seen to the doctor, and the doctor in the white coat was so angry that he took off his mask and walked toward us. "Do you even know what condition the patient is in right now?" My brother was dumbfounded and asked blankly. Well, they drank some pesticide and had their stomach pumped." The doctor looked at him and sighed, carefully choosing his words. "Pesticide, and it was paraquat. The patient's mouth and esophagus are already ulcerated, and pulmonary fibrosis is irreversible. Do you understand what I'm saying?" My brother didn't catch on, but I understood the doctor's underlying message. What he is doing now is not saving a life, but buying time for Tom to survive, giving the family time to properly say their goodbyes. "You need to be mentally prepared." The patient drank paraquat. "Stop arguing over money and pay the bill quickly. I've already hooked the patient up to the machines. You should spend more time with him." After hearing the doctor's words, my brother and my mother seemed to have all their strength drained away. In a daze, they let the nurses handle everything, swiping the card when told, scanning the code when instructed. I silently followed them to the door of the emergency room. When my sister-in-law saw us, she sprang to her feet. "Oh, Heidi's here. How thoughtful of you to care about your nephew. How much did the medical expenses cost?" She only knew that the two had called me to pay the bills, but she had no idea how seriously ill her son was. Seeing Maya's relaxed and indifferent expression, something in my brother snapped. Right there at the entrance of the emergency room, he slapped her back and forth. "Fuck your mother. You're going to get my son killed, you bitch. Why don't you just go die yourself?" Maya froze for a moment, then slumped to the ground, wailing loudly. "Oh, why are you blaming me? It's all because your mother refused to pay. How was I supposed to know that not drinking the pesticide would still be this serious? And Heidi clearly heard everything last night. Why didn't she stop him? Heidi, you've ruined your nephew's life." I am speechless. It seems any kind of blame can be pinned on me. "Sister-in-law, all I heard last night was you telling Tom to drink something. How could I have guessed that a mother would encourage her son to drink paraquat? That stuff is lethal. Even a vicious tiger doesn't eat its own cubs." "Sister-in-law, I really can't understand why you're blaming me now." I emphasized the words paraquat, which was like pouring fuel on the fire in my brother's sensitive spot. If it weren't for the medical staff holding him back, he would have hit my sister-in-law again. Their son's fate was uncertain, and her husband was in a state of rage. Maya dared not make another sound, and the scene fell into a heavy silence. I secretly took a strand of hair from my mother's clothes, excused myself to go to the bathroom, and made a phone call. "Hello, is this the paternity testing center? I'd like to request a paternity test." Because the matter was urgent, I opted for the expedited service. After a sleepless night, I finally received the report. Looking at the line on the test report, expert opinion, Fiona is excluded as the biological mother of Heidi. I immediately burst into tears, and the examiner kindly reminded me, "Miss Huang, we can upload your DNA to the missing children database. Perhaps it can help you find your biological parents sooner." After I finished all of this, my mom called again. Looking at the word mom in the notes, I thought bitterly in my heart, "I hope you're calling to tell me about Tom's death." "Oh, Heidi, come help me carry these things. The doctor is just lying to scam money. Tom is already better." My mom's complaining tone made me freeze for a moment. Can someone who has ingested paraquat recover on their own? Isn't that just a fleeting moment of clarity before death? By the time I arrived at the ward, several people had already packed a few bags. Tom was sitting on the hospital bed, still looking a bit weak, but he showed no signs of fear. Perhaps the doctor, worried about his emotional state, didn't explicitly explain the dangers of paraquat to him, so he had no idea what he was facing. He probably thought that after having his stomach pumped, everything would be fine. The doctor even gave me some diuretic shot, making me go to the bathroom 6 or 7 times an hour. "It's so annoying," he complained to Maya while playing on his phone. Maya wasn't very educated and always deferred to her son. "Exactly. They're making up illnesses just to scam money. What mother would ever harm her own son?" I sneered as I watched this family. "He should cherish the days when he can still urinate. When kidney failure occurs and there's no urine, a person is completely finished." I casually brought up the origin of all this, that phone call from the Harvard University admissions office. "Then this won't affect Tom's admission to Harvard, right? I just got my paycheck, so I can chip in with Mom." My mom glanced at my brother a few times, then looked at Tom, and reluctantly said, "All right, then I'll pull together with Heidi." I pretended to be happy and stuffed a bank card into my mom's hand. Her eyes lit up, and she pulled me aside. "How much is in here?" "10,000, Mom. You just need to add another 490,000. My mom's face instantly fell. "Are you kidding me? It's only $10,000. I turned to the side and deliberately raised my voice. "Mom, I just started working and don't have much money. All the money I earn in the future will be for you. Isn't this money meant for Tom's education? Don't you want him to go to Harvard University?" My mother, afraid my brother would hear, grumbled as she took the bank card. "Go transfer the money with your sister-in-law this afternoon." She didn't forget to remind me, "Heidi, when you earn money, make sure to give it to me. I'll save it for you, and it'll be your dowry later." I forced myself to hold back my disgust and nodded with a smile. Only then did she feel relieved, patted her clothes, and prepared to go home with her luggage. As soon as we stepped out of the ward, we were stopped by the nurse at the station. "What are you doing? The patient is scheduled to be transferred to the ICU this afternoon. Are you giving up on treatment by leaving now?" Maya was the first to step forward, unleashing all the pent-up frustration she had endured from her husband onto the nurse. "Go to hell, you bunch of quacks. All you care about is scamming money. Does my son look like there's anything wrong with him?" I glanced at my nephew, whose face was sunken, and thought, "Well, he certainly looks like someone with one foot in the grave." The nurse wasn't having any of it. "If the patient is to be admitted to the ICU this afternoon, you can leave if you want, but you must sign the treatment refusal form first, otherwise, this patient cannot step out of this door." The nurse confidently took out a pen and paper, but the three of them exchanged glances, and no one dared to take the pen. In the end, it was Tom himself who made the decision to be admitted to the ICU, but his condition was that he had to bring his phone into play with. Seeing his indifferent attitude, the nurse could only shake her head. None of the family members take their lives seriously. Tom, with his legs crossed, ordered my mom, "Grandma, go with Mom to pay the tuition this afternoon. Once I get the admission letter, I want to take a photo and post it on my social media." This time, unlike the previous life, not only was there no scapegoat like me to take the blame, but Tom also ended up in the hospital because of this money. Fiona didn't dare to complicate matters further, so she had to agree in front of her well-behaved grandson. After a long and exhausting ordeal, Tom was finally transferred to the ICU, and my mother planned to go to the bank with my brother to transfer the money. Compared to my mother and sister-in-law, who are both rural women, my brother is at least a person with normal intelligence. If he goes to the bank and the staff advises against it, he will surely come to his senses. This is not the outcome I wanted to see. I quickly stopped my brother. "These quacks are completely unreliable. Do you think it's okay to leave my sister-in-law here alone?" Sure enough, he hesitated. After some consideration, he finally decided that my sister-in-law would accompany my mother to make the transfer, while my brother and I stayed in the ward to watch over Tom. Sitting on the long bench outside the ICU, my brother suddenly sighed and said, "Heidi worked so hard back then and still couldn't get into Harvard. Now your nephew has made you proud and fulfilled your dream. As his aunt, you should really support him in the future." He had such a smug look on his face, it really disgusted me. In my second year of high school, the teacher clearly told them that I had the potential to aim for top universities like Harvard or Yale University, but both he and my mom believed that there was no use in a girl studying so much. If it weren't for my part-time job, I wouldn't even have been able to finish high school. Not getting into the advanced class, and the exhausting demands of my part-time job, ultimately led me to miss my chance at Harvard University. Even with all my hard work, I still didn't meet Harvard's standards. How could Tom, who's always at the bottom of the class, possibly get accepted? My brother hasn't paid attention to his son's studies for so long that he actually believes his son is a genius. When both the 500,000 and your son are gone, will you still be able to laugh? I didn't answer him, but instead turned and gave Tom a faint glance. He was in terrible condition, clutching his stomach and lying weakly on the bed. The nurse had just gone in to give him a shot of painkiller. It seemed the toxin had already spread to his digestive tract. "You have to hold on," I thought to myself. "You must hold on until your grandmother transfers every last cent of that 500,000 to the scammer." What I didn't expect was that the police would return before they did, too. Police officers in uniform, panting heavily, were inquiring at the nurse's station. "Hello, we're looking for Tom's father, David." Hearing his name spoken by the police, my brother, that burly and strong man, actually started trembling in fear. He couldn't even hold his phone steady, dropping it on the floor and unable to pick it up. "Hello, we are police officers from the YS District Police Station. Where are your wife and mother now? They have already fallen victim to a telecom scam." It turned out that the two had gone to the bank to transfer money because the amount was huge. The bank staff asked a few questions unexpectedly. In their eagerness to show off, they revealed the entire process. The bank, of course, refused to process the transfer and instead advised them that there is no such thing as a free lunch. The sister-in-law was so angry that she threw a tantrum at the bank counter. "You've been stuck in that place your whole lives. What the hell do you know? My son won the school sports championship in junior high, and they're planning to train him to become an Olympic champion." They anticipated that other schools would team up with the bank to poach him, deliberately preventing my son from being admitted in the early batch. "Mom, let's go." The bank staff didn't stop them but, fearing they might transfer the money through other channels, immediately chose to call the police. The police split into two teams. One found our family members, hoping we could help persuade them. After hearing the police's account, my brother wasn't nervous at all. Instead, he breathed a sigh of relief. "Hey, I thought it was something serious. So many people pay tuition to universities, and I've never heard of anyone getting into trouble. Besides, Harvard University is a prestigious school. How could they possibly scam anyone?" Of course, Harvard University wouldn't scam anyone. But how can you be sure that the person you're in contact with is really from Harvard? Of course, there was no way I could tell him that. I just stood by and watched the show, observing the police patiently trying to persuade him, while my brother shook his head, completely indifferent. At this critical moment, my sister-in-law and my mother returned, followed by another police officer. Seeing the relaxed expression on my sister-in-law's face, I knew the money was definitely gone. When she saw the two police officers surrounding David, the smugness in her eyes became even more uncontrollable. "Oh, officer, you're really making a big fuss over nothing. My son was admitted through the early batch as a targeted enrollment student." When my brother saw her, he quickly stood up and asked if she had paid the tuition. Hearing this, she became even more proud. "Don't even mention it. I had to rush Mom to several ATMs just to transfer the money within the deadline. Otherwise, Tom's spot would have been given to someone else." After she finished speaking, all the police officers present sighed. I also sighed, but it was for the police. Truly, good advice is hard to give to those doomed to die. They still refused to give up and insisted that my sister-in-law go back with them to give a statement. In the midst of the struggle, a sharp alarm sounded from the ICU. It was Tom's cardiac arrest. The nurses at the station rushed in one after another and wheeled Tom into the operating room. My sister-in-law and my brother were both dumbfounded. They grabbed an on-duty nurse and asked what was going on. The emergency department had already heard about their bizarre behavior. The young nurse spoke with a somewhat impatient tone but still patiently explained, "From the moment you entered the hospital, the patient was already issued a critical condition notice and was transferred to the intensive care unit within 12 hours. Your son ingested the highly toxic paraquat." Do I need to spell out what paraquat is? Upon hearing the nurse's words, the police officers sighed with regret. "We will do our best to recover your funds. Please take care of your family matters first, and when you have time, be sure to come to our police station to give a statement." After saying that, they left. The young nurse was also preparing to leave with her cart full of medicine, but the sister-in-law stubbornly stopped her. "Do you even know anything about medicine? My son didn't drink it. He just swished it in his mouth and immediately spat it out. He never swallowed it, so how could it be as serious as you're making it out to be?" She was shouting and screaming just as the consulting experts and the director arrived. The leader was an elderly man who, after hearing her words, signaled for the young nurse to go back to work. "Our treatment is not based on what the family says. The fact is that the patient's organs have already been severely damaged by the poison. As soon as he was admitted to the hospital, we arranged for gastric lavage, induced diarrhea, and hemoperfusion, all to eliminate the toxins from his body. But now, the patient's liver and kidney function indicators have dropped drastically, and white shadows have appeared in the lungs, which indicates fibrosis. This is irreversible. Once he is moved out of the emergency room, arrange for the family to see him. The patient doesn't have much time left." He blurted out the words in one breath, then led a group of people in white coats into the operating room in a grand procession. Only then did my sister-in-law and my brother realize the severity of the situation. Maya collapsed to the ground, her eyes vacant, muttering incoherently. After a while, she suddenly turned her anger toward me. "You're the only one in our family who went to college. How could you not know the dangers of paraquat? You must have wanted to kill your nephew." What she said is true, but why should I admit to something without evidence? I looked at her expressionlessly and spoke calmly. "Sister-in-law, you are the one who told Tom to drink the medicine. You said it yourself. Even a Vicious tiger doesn't harm its cubs. How could a mother harm her own son? Have you forgotten all that? Besides, even someone like you, who works with farmland every day, doesn't fully understand the toxicity of paraquat. How could I, a college student who doesn't study agriculture, possibly know about it? As soon as I finished speaking, my brother seemed to have a sudden realization and kicked Maya in the stomach, causing her to writhe in pain on the ground. Damn it, my son is gone, you might as well die too. Maya had been holding in a belly full of anger these past few days, and it all erupted at this moment. She bit my brother's arm. The two of them rolled on the ground like wild beasts, while my mother stood dazed, leaning against the wall. I thought she was shocked by the scene before her. It wasn't until I got closer that I heard her muttering, "My 500,000, that was my life savings." Tom was in critical care all night, with all kinds of hormone drugs administered as if they were free, but in the end, he didn't make it. Pulmonary fibrosis is irreversible. He essentially suffocated to death. Watching his heartbeat flatline on the monitor, a wave of wailing broke out in the hospital room. I stood behind them, quietly watching them mourn for Tom. My brother saw that I wasn't crying and loudly accused me. "Heidi, do you have a heart? Your nephew is dead, and you don't even shed a tear. Cry. The person who caused my death in my previous life is now a corpse. How could I possibly cry when I feel nothing but relief in my heart? It's just not the right time to confront them openly yet." I silently pulled out a stack of bills and handed them to him. "Bro, these are the ICU hospitalization fees from the past couple of days, along with the costs of various medications. I've looked through them, and it's roughly around 50 to 60,000. My brother didn't take the stack of documents. Instead, my sister-in-law sobbed and spoke up. "Heidi, your brother's son just passed away, and you're already rushing to ask him for money. Wasn't that your own nephew? You cover it for now." I rolled my eyes. "Get this straight. The money is for the hospital's treatment fees, not for me, and why Tom ended up in the hospital has nothing to do with me, so why should I pay for it?" My brother didn't seem to want to argue with me. "Mom, since Tom is gone, you should ask them to return the 500,000 first, and then settle the medical bills." Speaking of this, as if I suddenly remembered something, I casually said, "Oh, you mean Mom's money? It can't be recovered." "What do you mean it can't be recovered?" Fiona, who had been silent all along, finally spoke up. I looked at her face and said mockingly, "Just now, I saw on the news that they cracked a fraud case involving early batch targeted admissions under the guise of prestigious universities. The methods, the amounts, and even the script were exactly the same as what sister-in-law described. The police came that day. Have you forgotten?" My mother's eyes darted around as she tried to feign composure. "It's fine. The police said they can recover the money." Speaking of this, I can't help but laugh even more. "You can't get your money back because your sister-in-law was the only one who insisted on making a small remittance through an ATM. All bank transfers are delayed by 1 day and can be recovered. Yours was a real-time transfer, and the scammer has already taken the money and run." My mother couldn't sit still anymore and kept muttering, "I don't believe it unless the police tell me so." And just as we were talking about the police arrived. The police came. Seeing the police, David quickly stepped forward, forcing an awkward smile. "Officer, have you recovered our 500,000 yet?" The lead officer looked him up and down before speaking. "You're David. We don't know anything about 500,000, but you'll need to come with us today." Hearing such a response, David immediately started cursing. "Didn't you promise back then that you could recover the 500,000? Are you just freeloading on our taxpayers' money? Damn it." The group of police officers looked at him with strange expressions, then glanced at the officer in charge. They saw him nod, and the officers on both sides immediately went straight for David and Fiona, handcuffing the two of them. Fiona reacted extremely violently, screaming and shouting, frantically clawing at the police officers around her. "What do you think you're doing? My grandson just died, and now you're here to bully us. Is that it? I'll fight you with this old body of mine." The police were not about to indulge her hysterical behavior and immediately took her down with a back throw, pinning her to the ground. In stark contrast to Fiona's reaction was David, who, the moment he was handcuffed, was even more cowardly than when he encountered the police in the hospital hallway. He was so scared he wet his pants. A puddle of yellow liquid was on the ground, emitting a foul, pungent odor. Disgusted, I covered my nose and tipped 2 steps back. The lead officer, seeing David in this state, knew they had caught the right person. "David, Fiona, you are suspected of child trafficking. Come with us." After I reported to the police that I had been trafficked, they discovered that over the past 2 years, more than a dozen children had gone missing one after another, all vanishing inexplicably shortly After birth, this caught the attention of the police department's anti-human trafficking unit, and with me, a recovered child, serving as a breakthrough in the investigation, they followed the clues and identified Fiona. It turned out I wasn't the first child to fall victim to them, but the last. In the early years, when Fiona had no money, she made a living by stealing and selling children. As David grew older, he followed in his mother's footsteps and joined her in this heartless trade. It wasn't until recent years, with the increasing prevalence of surveillance and Fiona's advancing age, that the two finally stopped and turned to more legitimate means of making a living. Fiona was a rural woman who had no understanding of the law at all, which is why she yelled and screamed at the police. David, at least, had some education, so the moment he saw the police, he knew the shady things he had done couldn't be hidden any longer. As they were being taken away, Fiona struggled to turn her head and cursed at me. "You little bitch, worthless girl. I should have drowned you the moment I saw you were a girl. Raising a beast like you has ruined my whole family." Watching her helpless rage at this moment, my mood is excellent. After dealing with these two, I turned to look at Maya, my gossipy sister-in-law. "Sister-in-law, your son is dead, and your husband has been sent to prison. What do you plan to do now?" Hearing my words, she couldn't care less about anything else and lunged at me viciously. "It's all your fault, you jinx. If it weren't for you, how could my family be ruined? You're the one who harmed my husband and my son." I nimbly dodged her, standing at the door, looking down with pity at the disheveled woman on the floor with her bloodshot eyes. "Wasn't your son supposed to be a top student, accepted into Harvard University, trained to be an Olympic champion? How did he end up like this?" "Maya, take a look at yourself and David. What kind of trash are you both, and you still delude yourself into thinking you're good for nothing. Son is a genius. Your family's ruin isn't my doing, it's your husband's evil deeds and your own ignorance. This is your retribution." She scrambled up from the floor in disgrace. "I'm going to find the person from Harvard University who took all our family's money," I sneered. "Only now are you thinking of looking for them? Those scammers have long since fled abroad with the money to live it up." Upon hearing my words, Maya turned pale and looked at me helplessly. "You're also Tom's aunt and David's sister. They're both gone, and now it's just us depending on each other. So, give me some money. I need to report this to the authorities. I can't be broke." I pulled out a red envelope I had prepared earlier from my bag and waved it in front of Maya. Her eyes lit up like a starving wild dog spotting a meaty bone, and she snatched the red envelope from me. Maya eagerly tore open the red envelope, scattering the hell banknotes all over the ground. She froze, but I smiled. "There's over $1 million in here, all for Tom. Spend it slowly, and if it's not enough, I'll burn more for you." Unable to bear the emotional roller coaster, she eventually fainted. The ward finally returned to peace. I pressed the call button by the bed and quietly stepped out. Perhaps my past life was a huge joke that fate played on me, but fortunately, I was not defeated, and I made sure that everyone who hurt me was punished. Walking out of the hospital, the sunlight after the rain shone on my face, and I thought, this is also my rebirth. After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. After my brother finished the college entrance exam, our parents took us on a desert trip. He ignored the guide's warnings and insisted on venturing deeper into the desert. I cried and refused to go any further, and my parents each slapped me, saying I was being too delicate. Later, we got lost deep in the desert. When we ran out of supplies, my parents cut my wrist and used my blood to keep my brother alive. They relied on my dying body until the rescue team arrived. To escape the blame, they buried me in advance and cried to the interview cameras, claiming that I had been dragged away by wild beasts. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my brother finished his college entrance exams. My soul wandered aimlessly in the desert for several months, like a rootless duckweed, unsure of where to go, until a fierce wind swept up the yellow sand, and a white camel emerged from the rainbow bathed in brilliant light. It asked me, "What unfinished wishes do you still have?" The last lingering obsession in my mind made me stubbornly declare, "I will take revenge." When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my brother finished his college entrance exams. Just like in my previous life, the dining table was piled high with delicacies, all of which were my brother's favorites. This was the result of my parents' hard work all afternoon. Faced with their parents' earnest care, the elder brother remained unappreciative. He kept stirring the food with his chopsticks for a long time but didn't take a single bite. Mother suppressed the smile on her face and cautiously asked, "What's wrong? Does it not suit your taste?" The elder brother slammed his bowl down, frowned, and said, "After my classmate finished the college entrance exam, their parents either gave them a car or a house, or at the very least, took them on an overseas trip. Now look at our family, how pathetic. Faced with my brother's complaints, my parents exchanged a silent glance, not daring to speak. Our family's financial situation was not well off. Moreover, because my brother had been frail and sickly since childhood, a great deal of money had been spent on him, and now we were even more strapped for cash. But my parents, facing the only son in the family, always gave in to his every demand. They were bustling around my brother, and I couldn't take in a single word. I hadn't eaten anything in a long time. I was so hungry that I started wolfing down the food. Although I've been a ghost for several months, I have no senses, yet whenever I recall the days before my death, I still can't help but tremble. I can't forget the coldness of my wrist being cut, the blood slowly draining from my body, nor can I forget the pain of my skin being sliced open, piece by piece under the knife. I can never forget the suffocating feeling of yellow sand filling my mouth and nose in the desolate, lonely desert, and the fear of being devoured by insects and ants as a corpse. I ate too quickly and too eagerly, and my stomach churned violently. With a gag, I vomited all over the floor. My brother looked up at me angrily and said, "Are you deliberately trying to disgust me too? I don't think anyone should eat this meal today." With that, he flipped the table, splashing soup and water all over me. Dad looked at me with disgust, slapped the overturned table leg, and roared, "Get out." After that day, my brother started a one-sided Cold War. Within a couple of days, my parents couldn't take it anymore and eventually gave in. They agreed to fulfill my brother's wish and take him on a trip. Going abroad is out of the question. My family can't afford it. The final destination ended up being within the country. My brother's expression finally brightened a little. Then he suggested going on a desert adventure. The chosen location was Lop known as the Sea of Death. My parents didn't know where Lop was, but when they heard it was a desert, their faces stiffened. My mother smiled at me and told my brother that when my summer vacation started, the four of us would go together. In my previous life, completely unaware, I thought this was a glimmer of affection from my mother. I later found out that the reason they waited until my summer vacation was, first, because they weren't satisfied with the place my brother had chosen. They didn't dare to oppose my brother directly, so they used me to buy time. They hoped that once my brother's excitement faded, he would choose a different destination. Secondly, I had already grown strong enough to serve as their free labor along the way. "I don't want to go. What is she going to do?" My brother and I spoke at the same time. "I don't want to go, because I know this is a journey of no return." My brother doesn't want me to go because I am his disgrace. I am 18 years old. My brother is 20, I am a freshman in college, and he is preparing for the college entrance exam. The reason for this situation is that shortly after my brother was born, he developed acute leukemia. In that particular era, after my parents had a son, they did not plan to have a second child. They only decided to have a second child because saving their older son required precious umbilical cord blood. I was born for the sake of my older brother. My entire life has been destined to serve as his blood supply, and my brother's surgery was successful, and as his condition gradually improved, my parents cried tears of joy. After they got him back, they became overly cautious, holding their brother in the palm of their hands and cherishing him more than their own eyes, while I was just a dispensable existence, used and then forgotten. Because of my brother's health issues, his schooling was delayed. Fearing that studying would be too strenuous for him, my parents had me start school a year early. This way, I was one grade ahead of my brother and could even tutor him. However, my brother didn't appreciate our parents' well-intentioned efforts and instead saw me as a thorn in his side, because the whole school knew he had a sister who was 2 years younger but one grade ahead of him. This made it hard for him to hold his head up in front of his classmates. He didn't completely get rid of me until I got into college. Of course, he didn't want me to cling to him again at this moment. That's why he strongly opposed me going on the trip with them. "I'm not going. I've already promised my classmates that I'll work a summer job at her relative's company." "Do you really think your summer job can earn you that much money? Mom and Dad are taking you on a trip. How could that possibly harm you? Don't be ungrateful." Faced with my repeated refusals, Mom grew a little angry. "Mom, if she doesn't want to go, why are you begging her?" Mom pulled my brother into the room, and it was quite a while before she came out. This time, I didn't hear any objections from my brother. "Your brother agreed. It's thanks to his generosity. With a temper like yours, if you were born into any other family, which brother would tolerate you like this?" I said, "I'm not going. You and your precious son go on the trip. Why bring along an outsider like me?" I reiterated my stance. My mother had completely lost her patience and shouted at me, "You're going whether you want to or not. This family isn't run by you." My father had just come home from work and, hearing our argument, kicked me from behind. I fell unexpectedly onto the cold cement floor. We provide you with food, clothes, and a college education. Is this how you repay your parents? I swallowed the metallic, sweet taste in my mouth and glared at them hatefully. Fine, I'll go. Originally, I had no intention of going to the desert with them, planning to simply wait for good news at home. I want to see if they'll have the luck to make it out of the desert without me, their walking blood bag, but since they insisted on pushing me to go, I decided to see with my own eyes how they would bring about their own downfall. Using the money I earned from part-time jobs in college, I bought sunscreen, sun protective clothing, a sun hat, a compass, a professional GPS device, and other necessary items online. At the same time, I contacted a senior from the same department in college. During freshman orientation, he had once bragged in front of us juniors. He talked about how amazing his uncle was, capable of getting his hands on anything good. I need a miniature camera. Surely your uncle can get one, right, senior? The senior raised his head proudly, patted his chest, and said, "Who are you looking down on?" The next day, he shoved a small box into my hand. I sewed the camera into the inner layer of my backpack, leaving only a barely noticeable small hole exposed. At night, I tested it by placing it on the living room sofa, and the results were quite good. The footage from the camera was transmitted to my phone, showing my mother busy packing everything needed for the trip. She stuffed a large bottle of mineral water into my backpack. Her brother gave her a disdainful look. "Mom, why are you bringing all this stuff? Can't you buy it in Xinjiang?" Her mother pouted and said, "Water is so expensive in the desert, we should save wherever we can." As she spoke, she stuffed another large bottle of mineral water into the bag. "Sweetie, don't worry about it. Mom isn't making you carry it." My brother then silently threw his change of clothes onto the sofa. My mother immediately grabbed them and stuffed them all into the bag. My backpack was stuffed so full that it looked like a penguin about to burst. My mother still wasn't satisfied and kept pressing down on it. In the last bit of squeezed out space, I managed to stuff 2 of my brother's underwear. On the day of departure, my mother kept nagging in my ear. She said it was our family's first time flying and told me not to embarrass them. I didn't say anything. Carrying heavy luggage, I set off for the airport with them. On the way, my brother curled his lips and said to me condescendingly, "If it weren't for me, why would Mom and Dad take you on a trip? You don't even know how to be grateful, and you keep making that annoying dead face." My parents also blamed me for ruining their mood and asked me to smile more. I closed my eyes to rest, ignoring their unreasonable demands, because they wouldn't be laughing for long. At the security checkpoint, the officer stopped me as I was walking behind. "Ma'am, the liquid you're carrying exceeds the weight limit. Please take it out and go through security again." My mother turned back to pull me along and explained, "It's nothing, just 2 bottles of water." She picked up my backpack and was about to leave. "Ma'am, the airline has clear regulations. Please cooperate with our work." "No, rules are rigid, but people are flexible." "What kind of airline is this? Why can't you be a little more adaptable in how you handle things?" Despite the staff's repeated explanations, my mother remained firm in her stance, insisting that the airline change the rules for her. My father also joined in the argument, believing that the airline's regulations were completely unreasonable. The passengers waiting in line behind us grew increasingly anxious, and the security checkpoint descended into chaos, even as several strong male staff members surrounded us. My mother remained fiercely determined. My brother glanced around in shame and anger, wishing he could disappear into the ground. He squeezed next to his parents and said through gritted teeth, "Just take it out. It's not worth much anyway. It's so embarrassing." Only when his brother spoke up did their parents give up resisting. They let their brother unzip the bag. Bang! The moment he opened it, the huge backpack burst open like popcorn. My brother's 2 pairs of shorts eagerly spilled out. As he continued rummaging, more men's clothing burst out and spread across the security conveyor belt. The onlookers all showed expressions of shock, and some began whispering among themselves. Under everyone's watchful eyes, my brother finally managed to fish out 2 bottles of mineral water. The staff was about to move the 2 bottles of mineral water aside when the mother immediately snatched them away. "Your airline is so greedy. What's the difference between this and highway robbery? If I were like you, I'd have made a fortune long ago." The staff member sighed helplessly. "Ma'am, we're just following the rules. If you have any concerns, you can resolve them before leaving." "How do I resolve it? Check in, mail, or drink it? The checked luggage is already overweight, and mailing is so expensive," Mom muttered. After thinking it over, she finally decided to go with the third option. She shoved 2 bottles of mineral water into my arms. "Hurry up and drink. Don't make us miss our flight," I sneered. "Why should I Drink it. Mom glared at me and yelled, "You wasteful child, those 2 bottles cost over 10 yuan. Do you know how hard it is for your parents to earn money? In my previous life, my parents always told me that our family situation wasn't originally this bad. It was all because I was born. They had to provide me with food, clothes, and education, which is why our family's financial situation kept deteriorating. From a young age, I was brainwashed by them. As a result, I always felt a sense of guilt toward my parents, my brother, and the family, even automatically placing myself at the bottom of the household hierarchy. Faced with my parents' manipulation, I, as a young person, was at a loss. I had no choice but to drink 2 large 3-liter bottles of mineral water in front of everyone. It wasn't until after I died that I realized the family's financial struggles had nothing to do with me. My brother's leukemia drained my parents' savings over the years and left them buried in debt. It wasn't until I entered middle school that they finally paid off all their debts. During this time, they also indulged my brother without any limits, including material needs that were beyond their financial means. They blamed all the family's difficulties on me, yet they never said such things to my brother. They simply wanted to use my sense of guilt to achieve their goal of having me take care of my brother. In my previous life, I truly did my best. Despite being the younger sister, I took on the responsibilities of the older sister. No, to be more precise, it was the responsibilities of a mother. Yet in the end, all I got in return was a fate where not even my bones remained. From beginning to end, they never treated me as family. At this time, I stood firm and refused my mother. Choking back my full heart of grievances, I said loudly, "We're out as a family, and I only brought 1 change of clothes. My bag is completely filled with my brother's things. Why do I always have to be the one who's wronged, forced to do things I don't want to do?" My dissatisfied voice echoed through the airport. Everyone looked as if they had suddenly understood. No wonder a girl's bag is filled with boys' things. It turns out her parents favor sons over daughters. These parents are truly awful, poor, stingy, and abusive toward their daughter. That brother is no good either. Judging by his behavior, he's definitely his parents' biological son. It was the first time someone had said such a thing to him, and the brother was completely shattered. "I don't want embarrassing parents like you," he cried and screamed, refusing to go on the trip and demanding to go home. His parents had to pull and beg him to stay. They didn't dare pressure me anymore, so they each took a bottle and chugged the water down in one go. This farce finally came to an end. Mom stood with her hands on her hips, glaring at me. "What are you still standing there for? Hurry up and pack. If we miss the flight, I won't let you off." "Easy." I gave them a cold sidelong glance. "Whoever's stuff it is, they should pack it themselves." I grabbed my ticket and documents and quickly headed toward the boarding gate. My parents lagged behind, grumbling as they packed up their things before catching up. I was scolded all the way, but I turned a deaf ear. After getting off the plane, we immediately switched to a bus without stopping. After a bumpy journey, we finally reached the edge of the desert before dark. After a long and tiring journey, we first found a cheap inn to rest. After dinner, some locals who claimed to be guides were selling related tourism products near the inn. Hearing that it was our first time traveling, a guide named Bruce, wearing a wide-brimmed hat and sporting a full beard, enthusiastically engaged us in conversation. Bruce spoke with a heavy accent, but that didn't stop him from quickly getting familiar with our family in just a few sentences. The brother excitedly told him about the travel route he had planned. "Actually, we initially planned to join a tour group, but my brother thought it would be boring. He said since we were spending the money anyway, we should do something different from others. He always comes up with such unique ideas." He didn't plan to take the conventional route, but instead chose a more adventurous approach, believing it would be more interesting. My brother found his travel guide online. It was posted by an experienced backpacker leader with the username Brother R. My brother greatly admires this travel adventurer and always dreams of one day exploring different worlds just like him. Today, he is finally going to realize his dream, and when it comes to things he loves, he can talk endlessly. Go to Lopner, search for the lost ancient city of the El Kingdom, and see how beautiful the legendary queen really is. I stood by, secretly laughing to myself. The ancient city of the El Kingdom and the ruins of the ancient Jingjue Kingdom are hundreds of kilometers apart. He hasn't even figured out the travel guide properly, yet he dreams of becoming the king of desert exploration. He was spoiled by his parents, arrogant and conceited, which ultimately put us in danger. Bruce is a smart person, very good at reading people, but he didn't point out the flaws in his brother's words. He just shook his head after listening. "Lopner, it's not a good place, you know. Even we locals don't understand why you outsiders always like to go there. There are no people, no roads, no cars, and no water. It's very dangerous." My parents, who had never been to school and had little worldly experience, were easily intimidated by his words and began to have second thoughts. They started trying to persuade my brother. Look, even the locals say it's dangerous. Bob, why don't we just forget about it this time? There are so many other fun places in Xinjiang. Let's go somewhere else instead. My brother got angry as soon as he heard this. He abruptly stood up and kicked a nearby stool hard. If you were worried about the cost, you shouldn't have brought me out in the first place. Now that we're here, you say we're not going. Are you making a fool out of me? No, that's not what we meant, Mom quickly explained. Bruce watched all of this expressionlessly, touched his nose, and found the right moment to interject. Actually, it's not like there's no way. Of course, it's very dangerous for you to go in by yourselves, but if you're taken in by us locals, that's a different story. Sure enough, my parents took the bait. Older people don't like taking risks, and they especially dislike gambling with their lives. After careful consideration, they gritted their teeth and agreed to hire Bruce as their guide. Only then did the older brother's anger subside, and he enthusiastically discussed the specific route with Bruce. With 4 of you, 1 camel each, 2,000 a day, that's quite a bargain, isn't it? 2,000 a day, that's so expensive, Mom muttered. My brother glared at her, and Mom immediately stiffened, straightening her back nervously as she said, No, it's not expensive at all. Mom thinks the price is quite reasonable, but as for the camels, 3 will be enough. My daughter and I can share one. We're both small, and together we still don't weigh as much as one of you men. After bargaining with Bruce, they finally decided to take only 3 camels to avoid risks. Bruce then presented several travel insurance options for them to choose from. At first, my parents were unwilling to buy it, but Bruce, with his silver tongue, managed to persuade them to happily agree to purchase a policy. Wendy, go to the room and get a coat for Mom. I'm feeling a bit cold. I knew why Mom was sending me away. She wanted to save money on one less insurance policy. The same was true in my previous life. She only bought insurance for the 3 of them, leaving me out entirely, and after they were saved, they beat their chests in regret for not having bought me insurance. I obediently turned around, curled my lips into a slight smile, and went to get my mother's clothes. Whether they buy insurance for me or not doesn't matter, since I won't need it anyway. Bruce is a qualified and responsible guide. Under his leadership, although there were some unexpected incidents during the first few days of our trip, for example, he would seize every opportunity to cleverly demand additional fees. Every time this happens, Mom would frown and say, another price increase. But when you're drifting out there, you're bound to get cut. Being in an unfamiliar place, especially in the desert, my parents didn't dare to confront him rashly. They had no choice but to obediently pay up. Despite these minor flaws, overall it was still a very enjoyable experience. We traversed the breathtakingly magnificent Grand Canyon. We witnessed the mysterious and majestic beauty of the desert oasis. We also experienced the unpredictable and perilous extremes of the desert climate. We are intoxicated by the enchanting scenery of the long river and the setting sun. Lingering and reluctant to leave later, to fulfill my brother's wish, my parents even went so far as to spend a large sum of money, asking Bruce to take us through the restricted area, to visit the ancient city ruins of Country L, which are not open to the public. This was an absolutely unique and magical experience for our family, who had never ventured beyond our small county town. Even a serious man like Dad couldn't help but curl the corners of his mouth into a satisfied smile. Only my brother glanced at it and said disdainfully, Is that all? Brother mentioned in his travel guide that this isn't the real ancient city of El. He listed a lot of evidence to prove it. The real ancient city of El must still be sleeping somewhere in a mysterious desert. My brother kept complaining, but that didn't stop him from taking pictures non-stop along the way. He had to check in at every scenic spot. He could post over a dozen moments a day, showing off to his classmates and friends. Classmate A, damn, Bob, you really went to the desert. I thought you were just bragging to us. Brother, don't underestimate me. A real man always keeps his word. When have I ever gone back on my promises? Classmate B, impressive. Many people travel to the desert, but when it comes to desert exploration, you're the only one in our class who's done it. That's really awesome. Brother, compared to you guys going abroad, my trip is nothing special. Classmate C, the scenery in the desert is so beautiful. It's a shame my parents say it's not suitable for girls to go. I'm really envious of you. Brother, no worries. Once we're in college, let's form a team and go together. I'll be the team leader. This time, I'll just scout the way for you all first. Classmate D, you even went to the mysterious ancient city of El. I'm tired of saying how envious I am. Brother, this is just the beginning. That artificially developed site is Obviously fake, what's the point? Our next stop is to find the real ancient city of El, all classmates. That's amazing. If you really find it, the front pages of news across the country will all be about our Bob. We hope you won't forget us when you make it big. Brother stared intently at his phone screen, unable to suppress the smile at the corner of his mouth. His fingers danced with pride as he struggled to keep up with replying to all the messages. I watched it all coldly, only hoping his classmates would put in more effort and not hold back on the flattery at a time like this. Teenagers at this age are all full of vigor and can't resist praise and flattery, especially someone like my brother, who is both insecure and arrogant. The turning point occurred on the 7th day after we entered the desert. Bruce refused to go any further, no matter how much we offered to pay him. That's the real sea of death up ahead. Even we locals don't dare to venture there lightly. You've already had several days of fun here, and you've seen for yourselves, there's nothing but sand. Even if you go further in, it's still just sand. No, it's not just sand, it's the ancient city of El Country, a legend, a fairyland. You wouldn't understand. The brother gazed at the endless desert and roared loudly. The legendary ancient city of El Country was right before his eyes. If he could unveil its mysterious veil, not only would it satisfy his curiosity, but it might also bring him fame and success. Such a great temptation was hard for even adults to resist. And over the years, many had ventured forth one after another, let alone someone like my brother, a greenhorn just starting out. My brother is determined to have his own way, showing a strong determination not to give up until he reaches Country El. It's just ahead, let's walk another 1 or 2 kilometers. If we still don't see the ancient city of Country El, we'll turn back immediately. Bruce shook his head seriously. This is something you outsiders don't understand. In the desert, even a few 100 meters can make a completely different world, let alone 1 or 2 kilometers. The desert can devour people. The negotiation reached a stalemate, and it was finally decided to set up camp and think it over for the night. My brother is already obsessed. How could one night change his original intention? He still stubbornly insists on going deep into the desert to see for himself. How could our parents bear to let their precious son go on an adventure alone? Of course, they had to follow along. Bruce not only firmly refused to go but was also eager to distance himself. He took out a contract for us to sign. It was to prove that his involvement with our guiding task ended here, and anything that happened afterward would have nothing to do with him. My brother didn't take it seriously and quickly signed the document. My parents followed closely behind. I am timid, and looking at the deep, boundless desert, I felt fear in my heart. It is like a bewitching enchantress, captivating the world with its allure. It is also like a starving ghost from the depths of hell, ready to devour any living being that passes by. I don't want to go anymore. If you want to go, go by yourselves. I refused to sign. My parents, packing under the scorching sun, were already parched and had nowhere to vent their pent-up anger. In my previous life, after I said those words, they slapped me across the face, one from each side. They say I'm immature and only know how to cause trouble. They also say I'm delicate and lack training, that I should learn from my brother and be braver, so I can have a promising future. This time, before their slaps could land, I skillfully dodged them. I rolled up my pant leg, revealing my bloodied and bruised knee. It's not that I don't want to go, but I can't move anymore. What's going on? Last night, I got up to use the bathroom and saw a dark figure flash by in the distance. I thought it was a ghost, and in my panic, I stumbled and fell down the slope, hitting a rock. After hearing this, my mother didn't ask about my injuries. Instead, she pinched my arm hard and scolded angrily. Do I owe you something? Why did you have to fall now? Of all times, I think you're just trying to slack off. I lowered my head and sobbed. Sorry, Mom, I really didn't mean to, but I really can't walk anymore. If I go, I'll just be a burden to you. As the sun rose higher, my brother said impatiently, if she doesn't want to go, then don't, without her as a burden. We'll have more fun. If she doesn't go, who's going to carry all this luggage? I knew it. They insisted I go not because I'm part of this family, it's purely because they needed a laborer. I sensibly led a camel over to them. It's more capable than I am. Bruce anxiously added, Hey, you'll have to pay more. How much do you need? We'll stick to the original price, $500 a day for you. But since our contract has been terminated now, you'll have to give me a $20,000 deposit. The camels are our livelihood. Although my parents were seething with hatred for Bruce, they had no other choice. They had no choice but to obediently transfer 20,000 yuan to him. While they were packing their luggage, I quietly retrieved my backpack and held it tightly against my chest, looking nervous. What are you hiding in your bag? Nothing. I quickly hid my backpack behind me and stumbled backward. My brother angrily came over, pushed me, and snatched the backpack away. He opened the backpack and shouted, "Well, you actually hid so many good things from us." My parents glanced at it and sneered coldly. As the old saying goes, raising a daughter is indeed raising an ungrateful wolf, selfish and self-centered, only caring about her own things, not even considering her own parents and brother. Holding my injured leg, I repeatedly apologized to them. "That's not the case, I just didn't remember. I only recalled that there were my change of clothes in the bag." My brother pulled out my clothes and threw them in my face. "Let's go." Watching their receding figures, I felt a great sense of relief. I smashed my leg with a stone last night. If I hadn't done that, they would never have let me go. I carefully selected the camel for them, and its hump had already gone soft. I also intentionally let them take the backpack. After all, with that equipment, they had the confidence to venture further. After they left, Bruce took out the medicine he carried with him and helped clean my wound. They had made an agreement with Bruce that if they didn't return before dark, he would call the police for them. As he applied the medicine, he said, "You made the right choice." I retracted my legs and said in surprise, "You could tell." Bruce pointed to his own eyes and said, "I was born in the desert, raised in the desert. What kind of injury haven't I seen? Then why don't you ask me why?" He shook his head and said, "No need to ask. Every family needs someone to stay and guard the home." As agreed, Bruce and I waited until dark. There was still no sign of my parents and brother. Bruce stared solemnly in the direction they had left. He took out his phone to call the police, but after pressing a few buttons, his already furrowed brows drew even closer together. "I told you not to go, but you just wouldn't listen. Now we're really in big trouble. Girl, get on the camel quickly. There's no signal here anymore." I turned over and mounted the camel, speeding away. I can't wait any longer, can't wait to see how miserable they are. It's really strange today. Why is there still no signal even here? Bruce held up his phone, searching for a signal everywhere. It wasn't until they walked out of the canyon that they got intermittent signals. He quickly dialed the emergency number. Meanwhile, I returned to the inn feeling completely at ease, lay down on the comfortable bed, and opened the surveillance on my phone. After parting ways with us, they immediately pressed on toward the heart of the desert without a moment's delay. My brother fiddled with the various professional equipment I had prepared and boasted arrogantly, "Bruce is just a coward. With all this gear, I'm going to conquer this desert today." He was like a wild horse off the reins, growing more and more excited, as if the next moment he could gain both fame and fortune from his great discovery. At the same time, his brother's social media feed was still updating. His parents were also spamming photos in the family group chat. The sounds of envy and admiration made them dizzy. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, time passed bit by bit. The sun above their heads had also, at some point, quietly shifted direction. Unconsciously, the distance they had walked had long exceeded the planned 1 or 2 kilometers until their phones had no signal at all. Even the professional GPS in his brother's hand malfunctioned, yet his brother still didn't realize the danger and arrogantly said, "This little desert is nothing special." After all, their father had decades more life experience, and this time even he refused to go any further, but his brother still wouldn't give up. "What's there to fear? Once we cross the sand dune, we'll see the legendary ancient city of El Country. Are we really going to give up now? Do you know how great a feat it would be if we discovered the real ancient city of El? So many people would come to see it, and we would never have to live in poverty and hardship again. Besides, we just had a signal earlier. Once we climb up and stand at the highest point, if the situation turns bad, we can immediately turn back and call that brat Wendy to come pick us up." Anyone who heard this would think his words were utterly absurd, yet his parents were convinced by him. When they finally climbed up the sand dune, what came into view was not a trace of the ancient city, only an endless expanse of desert. The older brother took out his printed treasure map and flipped through it again and again. Dad adjusted his glasses. "You've seen it for yourself. Are you finally convinced now?" Brother said in disbelief. "It can't be, brother, I would never lie to me. This is clearly the ancient city of El Country. Snap out of it. It's almost dark. We can't spend the night here. We need to hurry back." This time, Dad didn't indulge his whims any longer and pushed him to turn back the way they came. Unfortunately, even after dark, they still hadn't made it out of that desert. There is still no signal on the phone, even various professional devices, due to magnetic interference, began to spin around like headless flies. My brother, both anxious and angry, could only vent his emotions by smashing things. "Wendy, it must be you who got us into this mess. Just wait until I get out. I'll make sure you pay for it." I exited the playback and reopened it, entering the real-time synchronized view. By now, they had settled in the desert and began to huddle together for warmth. The accusations against me grew increasingly intense. They blamed the responsibility for getting lost in the desert on me, claiming I had given them counterfeit products that couldn't receive signals. They also unanimously decided that when they see me, they must teach me a lesson. I happily turned off the surveillance. If they want to see me again, they can wait until the next life. Meanwhile, the local police station and rescue team had arrived at the inn and began discussing the search and rescue plan. But how can human strength contend with the wrath of nature now that it's dark? The rescue team is powerless and dares not put themselves and their teammates at risk. They came to seek my opinion. I have no objection to this. After seeing off the rescue team, I slept soundly through the night, feeling completely at ease. By the time I woke up, the sky was already bright. I got dressed and set off with the rescue team. After all, the show had to go on. I cried so miserably that I ran out of tears. Anyone who saw me would praise me as a good daughter. However, the outcome was far from satisfactory. After a whole day of search and rescue, everyone was physically and mentally exhausted. At this point, Mom, Dad, and my brother went from being slightly anxious to restless and gradually losing control. The once loving family began to develop rifts, starting to blame and shift responsibility onto each other. The conflict erupted on the 5th day of their disappearance, which was also the 2nd day they ran out of water and food. They hadn't planned to go far, so they didn't bring much water or food. On the 3rd day, after their resources were exhausted, they could still manage to hold on, but the harshness of the desert climate was far beyond what the plains could compare to. Without water for a day, they would become dehydrated, and without water for 2 days, they would almost turn into dried meat. With no other options left, they had to start drinking their own urine. By the 7th day, even the urine was gone. Their lips were chapped, their eyes bloodshot, and their faces had turned ferocious. Then they turned their attention to the camel. Brother, what's the use of keeping this beast? Only by killing it can we survive until the rescue team arrives. Father, if you kill it, we'll truly never get out of here. It's been 7 days already. If that wretched girl Wendy had any sense, she would have found us by now. If we want to get out, we can only rely on this camel. Father firmly opposes killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. Mother was torn between her husband and her son, but in the end, she still had to make a choice. She couldn't resist her brother's persistent pestering. That night, while their father was asleep, they took their tools and headed toward the camel. Mom, put more effort into it. Don't let Dad find out. Son, I haven't eaten for days. How can I have any strength left? Do you want to watch me die? How did I end up with a mother like you? Stimulated by her brother's words, Mom became furious. The camel let out a mournful roar. What are you doing? Dad was awakened by the commotion outside. He stumbled over to stop it. My brother has gone berserk. Not even the highest authority could stop him now. Don't be foolish. Get out of my way. I am your father. How dare you speak to me like that? If you don't let me live, you're not my father. A piercing cry tore through the silent night sky. The camel was not like me in my previous life, allowing others to slaughter it at will. It had inexplicably changed owners and followed 3 strangers deep into the desert. Not only was there no food or drink, but this group of people also wanted to take its life. It reared up on its hind legs, kicking over the mother and brother closest to it, then charged straight toward the father. The camel ran off without looking back. Father was found at the foot of the sand dune, blood continuously gushing from his abdomen. Mother took off her coat to cover the hole in father's body. Brother's eyes lit up as he watched, unconsciously licking his lips. I'm so thirsty. After muttering this, he threw himself recklessly toward father's stomach. My parents were terrified. Are you crazy? Do you know what you're doing? My brother buried his head and frantically sucked on Dad's stomach. Mom has a strong sense of self-sacrifice. These past few days, she has eaten the least and drunk the least. At this moment, her body is also at its weakest. She is no match for her brother at all. Her father was injured and had lost too much blood, leaving him with no strength to resist. He could only watch helplessly as the son he had doted on since childhood crouched over him, sucking his blood. Her father's eyes began to lose focus. The brother finally wiped his mouth contentedly and left his father's body. The mother held the father and sat with him all night. The next day, she made a shocking move. She gripped the dagger and slit her own wrist. She held her bloodied arm and brought it to her brother's lips herself. My son, you and your father must live on. Ha, so she does have maternal love after all, so she is capable of sacrificing for her children. It's just that her maternal love never belonged to me. In my previous life, when my father held me down and my mother personally slit my wrist, they said to me, why did we give birth to you and raise you? If not for the day you could repay us, today is the day you repay your parents. At this moment, watching my mother give up her own life for my father and brother, my feelings are complicated. I silently turned off the surveillance footage. Not wanting to watch any longer, on the 10th day, the search and rescue efforts still had no leads, but the camel returned. The rescue team, which had been on the verge of despair, was overjoyed. They placed all their hopes on that camel. Bruce tended to the camel's wounds, provided it with plenty of grass and water, and then set off again with the rescue team. On the 12th day, the rescue team found some clues. On the 14th day, the rescue team finally discovered their trail. I also saw those 3 people, connected to me by blood. Once again, no, it's no longer appropriate to call them human. More than half of their bodies were buried in the yellow sand, with only their heads barely visible. The rescue workers had to put in a great deal of effort to dig them out of the shifting sand. The older brother, disheveled and wild like a cornered beast, lay motionless beside his deceased parents. The condition of my parents was even more horrifying. Their blood had been completely drained, body parts were scattered everywhere. The rescue workers gathered their remains and carried my brother onto a stretcher. After arriving at the inn, my brother was transferred to the ambulance. As his only family member, I went to the hospital with him. I held his hand and softly called out, "Brother." He turned his head woodenly, and when he saw it was me, a glimmer of life returned to his eyes. You. I excitedly grasped his hand. "Brother, don't worry, you'll definitely be fine." The nurse was deeply moved and turned around to prepare his medicine. I leaned close to my brother's ear and whispered, "Your college entrance exam results are out. All those expensive tutoring classes Mom and Dad signed you up for over the years weren't in vain. You did really well. Getting into a 211 university won't be a problem." My brother was just about to say something. I continued, "What a pity. You won't be able to go. You're about to die. Don't worry, as your own sister, I will enjoy the rest of this life on your behalf. You." His eyes widened in fury as he clutched his throat, gasping for breath. I shouted loudly, "Doctor, save my brother." My parents sacrificed themselves, but in the end, they still couldn't save their precious son. My brother died. He died of organ failure. Our family story was widely reported by the media. Some people call us foolish, while others say we are pitiful. There are even kind-hearted individuals who pity me for being alone and helpless, and have started fundraising campaigns for me. I returned all of it. The insurance company asked me to collect the compensation. The travel accident insurance that Mom bought for the 3 of them ended up in my hands. It totaled over $8 million. The crematorium notified me to collect the ashes. Relatives wanted to attend the memorial service, but I said Mom and Dad didn't like crowds, so let them go peacefully and quietly. After seeing off my relatives and friends, I took their 3 urns of ashes to the garbage dump, watching the ashes scatter into the sky, mingling with the stench of garbage, and being swept into the mud. I thought this was the best final resting place for them. After all, trash belongs in the dump, isn't it? After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.